And I would really appreciate it if you would stop Rob Taylor from blathering on and on.
Opinions expressed by talk show hosts, callers, or guests on the Rob Taylor Report do not necessarily represent the opinions of the hosting platform, subsidiaries, sponsors, or possibly anyone else on the planet or the known universe. From the tinfoil and lead-lined broadcast bunker on the beautiful southern coast of Oregon, it's the Rob Taylor Report. So strap yourself in. Your weekly political therapy session is about to begin. Ladies and gentlemen, here he is, the nearly famous Rob Taylor.
Hello, Coos County. Hello, Oregon. Hello, America and beyond. And if you're joining me today, I want to thank you very much. We've got a very special show happening today. I've got a really incredibly knowledgeable guest, someone who has been studying the globalist agenda to take over, well, everything. Literally everything on the planet. It started out with Agenda 21. It's moved into Agenda 2030. And now we are on the precipice of having our whole form of government change from UN policies that are also being put out by the establishment here in America. And we're going to talk more about this because this is directly affecting you, especially here in Oregon. We align with a lot of the policies that are coming out of the UN here. And my guest is going to be talking about that today and trying to connect the dots of how your public school actually is being, the policies for those schools are coming from the United Nations. This is going to be interesting. I think you're going to enjoy this. And joining me right now is Kathleen Marquardt. How are you doing, Kathleen? Did I pronounce your last name correctly?
Yes, you did. I was impressed. Thank you.
I've had you on the radio show. It's been a while, and it's been about 5 years. And at the time, you were doing Humane Watch. You remember?
I was on doing it, fighting animal rights. Yes.
Yeah, I remember it was very controversial, and I think you were even on Geraldo, weren't you, about that subject?
Yes. That was a long time ago.
That was a long time ago. That's how far back I've been keeping up with your work. And
wow.
Yeah, I was trying to find that clip of that Geraldo show, and I could not find it anywhere. So unfortunately, I don't have it, but I thought that would just be interesting to play because you were right then. I think you're right now. And I think moving forward, people should start listening to your message.
Well, thank you. The interesting thing is that issue, the animal rights issue, was one of the early one of the early indicators of what they were doing to our country and the world, and people didn't realize it. And I'm actually writing an article right now. Excuse me. Writing an article right now showing the connections, because people think all these things are different. Everything is connected.
And I would advise anyone who doesn't believe this to go and read Agenda 21, the actual publication by the United Nations, and then read Agenda 30. And if you don't believe what we're saying now, after reading that, then you are clueless, because it lays it out in those documents what they want to do to us.
It does. And Oregon was the first state that was really attacked by this. Oregon, you get to say, okay, we maybe could have stopped it if you understood it.
Right. And that's the problem. I don't think people understand it. And I don't think people understand how much power a city council, a school board, or county commissioners have in rejecting a lot of this policy. And in fact, I love the name of the organization. You and your brother, Tom DeWeese, is your brother, right? No, I'm sorry. Okay, so Tom, I don't know where I got that connection. I've had Tom on the show several times too, but yeah, Tom. So I love the name of your group, American Policy Center, because people often ask me, Rob, what is your goal? Is it to get people elected? Is it to change the party system? What is your goal? And my goal is policy. Everything has to do with policy. That's what directs everything in our lives, because that's what's implemented by every governing body. And when I support candidates, I'm not supporting candidates because of who they are, because of the policies that they support and they don't support. And the American Policy Center, I think the name has the most important reason why activists should get involved, and that's American policy. We have to change this policy because we have UN globalists who are directing local so-called sustainable development.
Yep, and we have to get back to sound science, reason, and common sense. And those are so simple, but we have none of it today in our government. None of it. It's all a big lie. But it's been driven for over 100 years. And people started, those early people who woke up, and senators and all, were basically silenced. So, or like JFK, who wanted to stop the wars. So we are now so far down the road that we either stop it now or we're gone. We have, I mean, I have kids and I have grandkids, and
right.
don't want to see them living in a world where anything goes except truth.
Right.
And that's and what they want us to do is groupthink. And you've seen what they're pushing right now with 5G and all is to program people's mind. And I don't understand any of that. I don't know how they're going to do it, but they've done everything else that they promised to do. So if we don't stop it now, like President Trump just ended the Department of Education.
Right.
And Reagan had promised to, but he never did. And like I said in my article, even back then, if he had done it, I don't know if we would still be on this road, but we'd be a lot further back on this road. And it's now up to us. It's now up to the citizens, because none of our governments, not local, not state, not federal, none of them are there to protect us now. They are all controlled. So we have to take back our governments. We have to take them back in the city councils, in county commissions, and in the school boards. And you have to, you have to do that right now, because look at what they're teaching in our schools, situational ethics. Basically, there are no moral thoughts in our school. Right. None. It's
right. It's actually they tried to say there is no objective morality, that it's all based on your feelings and emotions. If it feels wrong, it must be wrong. If you know what I mean? And that's not how we base our objective reasoning. We base it on facts and through tried policies, and yeah, it's frustrating to watch what they're teaching our kids, how to be nothing but emotional babies who just can't produce for themselves. And I think that is really the ultimate goal.
Well, the ultimate goal is to reduce the human population down to a very controllable amount. And they're really going for that now. But yeah. Yes, They don't want you to have any basis in moral law, none. And they're getting awfully close. And I guess it was back in 2017 here in Tennessee. A bunch of us went into, when they were getting the new school books, they let parents come in, and they were horrendous then. I'm glad I haven't seen one now. But most people say, well, I can't homeschool. I have a job. You don't have to sit there and be a teacher in a classroom of 1 or 2 or 3 kids. You need to join. There's all these homeschool groups. And I have a lot of friends that have 5, 6, 7 kids, and they all are being homeschooled. And so we have them, but we need more that are taught. Yes, it is wrong to murder. It is wrong to lie. It is wrong to steal. And just because it makes you feel good, or because, as in situational ethics, just because nobody knows you did it doesn't mean you didn't do it. It's we're just living in such an upside down world. And I have to tell you, I got into this through animal rights. My daughters were in junior high, and one of them came home from school, never going back, because the science teacher invited a person from People for the Ethical Treatment of Animals into her classroom.
Oh boy.
And she went after the kids, and she had most of them convinced. And then she said, we were in a suburb of Washington, D.C. at the time. And she said, well, how many of your fathers hunt? And none of the kids answered. And my daughter said, well, my mother hunts. And then the woman said, well, your mother is a murderer. So now my kids are not going back to school, because you don't want to be, a murderer's daughter. And I had I knew nothing about animal rights. But the more I looked into it, the more I just got so mad. And my husband was an attorney, so he said, do something about it. And I did. And that's how I got into all this. But animal rights is just one aspect of what it is, but it helps them because that they have a group that says, don't you think a world with no people in it would be such a beautiful, peaceful world? In other words, there's the euthanasia, and they don't want you to eat meat. They want you to eat bugs, like we're all getting to hear now from the UN and all. They're all part of it. Everything you look at out there is part of it. And most of the time people don't have any idea. I mean, this sex stuff, that helps you reduce the human population, because 2 boys ain't going to make a baby.
Good point.
It's just, we're living, my fault, because I always wanted to live in interesting times, but I wanted 1776, not this. So
Right. Well, you can't pick and choose, and that's okay. This is our battle. And at this point, you mentioned you have kids and grandkids. And I just finally got my kid out of Portland. He was living up there since 2020, and it was wild. And finally, he's back. He's living right next door in a little town in Bandon, Oregon, here in Southern Oregon, right on the coast. We're in a red county, and it's still screwed up. We're still fighting it. And, right now, our big push isn't worrying about our state senators and our state reps or our federal representatives or congressmen. Our big worry, and that we're fighting for now, is we're focusing most of our energy on local elections, from the commissioner all the way down to the dog catcher. We are focusing on getting all of those positions changed out to people who are going to stand up for the right thing, because even in a county like this, most of the cities here in our county have liberal, left-leaning city councils, but yet the county itself voted 60% overwhelmingly for Donald Trump. What does that tell you?
It tells you they've been brainwashed, but you're doing exactly the right thing. You have to start at the bottom, because our senators and congressmen don't really make the laws or anything. I mean, they just follow orders and take the money. They literally do not have any jobs. And at the state level, it's very, I don't know if they're getting paid, but they're at least being blackmailed or somehow. But they're also being educated. They are taught that as soon as they get elected, they're trained in by the wrong, by the evil people, and people don't understand that. So it has to be people like you and me and our neighbors that go and run for these offices. So that because once you know how wrong it is, you're not going to go fall for it. And you can help teach the other people that are being brainwashed exactly what is really happening. But you have to understand it well enough to be able to explain it. And it's not hard, but it looks hard because it encompasses everything in our lives. We just have to learn how to explain it to our next door neighbor and the sheriff and all that.
Right. And which really, and going back to Agenda 2030, it encompasses every aspect. It's every aspect of our life. It's the inventorying of everything on the planet so that they can control the supply and demand, especially the supply, and going back to the schools and how you were in Humane Watch all those years ago. That's partly, I was involved before then with other stuff, but that's what I started seeing in the schools, where they were teaching these kids that animals have rights and somehow they should be elevated to the same level as a human or even above a human. And to me, that was the absolute deleterious thing to tell a child. We survive on meat. The caveman was able to become much more intelligent by chasing protein all through the world. And that's how we became the species that we are. And to take that away would take away part of who we are. We have to live off of animals. We have to live off what the planet provides. That's the natural occurrence of things. And when you take that away and then try to tell people like children who they're not involved with hunting, they have no clue, that's a bad thing. You can get away with that in the city. But if they tried that in a school in Coos County, all of these kids here, they go hunting. They all have rifles. You know what I mean?
Yep.
So they're not putting up with a lot of this. And I'm finally seeing that breakthrough. And I do have to give a lot of it to Trump and Trump's kind of learning curve, because I think he really wasn't really in the know in that first term. And I think that 4 years hiatus and then now back in the presidency, I think he has realized the depth of how we are under siege. I think he realizes that now.
I think, well, it helped that he was under siege when he was the president, and he figured that out and started listening, because, people as smart as him have a tendency to say, well, I can figure it out on the run, and you can't. This is not something you can figure out. It's so hard because of the asymmetrical warfare they're using against us, with the brainwashing, with all the school books that are so convoluted, and with all of the values that they say, well, everybody has their own values. Well, you may have your own values, but we are a government of moral values. And well, we're not right now, but we were. And what really saddens me is America was the first and only country that ever did this. And we were such a beautiful example to the world. And what did we do? And almost immediately they started corrupting it. And I don't know, I'm not a Pollyanna, but I would sure like to live in real times. But this is, once you get into this war, you can't stop. I can't stop and say, oh, well, I'm old enough now. My grandkids can learn somehow. It ain't going to happen. We're not.
That's a good thing, though. But it's funny. I've brought people into and I hate to call us activists because they always think of us as daisy spitting, tree hugging leftist liberals. I like to think of myself as a patriot because I love my country and I believe my job is to protect my country from all bad governments, foreign and domestic. And that to me is what a patriot is. I look at you as a patriot. And it's because the activist label, even though it would correctly describe us, has just been, the connotation has been screwed over by the like I said, the tree huggers. But yeah, I totally agree with you. I've brought people into this movement going back decades now. They're still in it. And once they see it, and once they understand it and comprehend what's going on, I haven't seen anyone leave. I mean,
they can't unsee it. They can't unsee it. And it just, but you've got to penetrate, because so many people's minds have been they've had such a narrow view of things for so long that sounds a little weird. You sound like a radical. Why can't everybody live and let live? Well, we tried that, and that was our biggest mistake, is to allow people to, moral relativity. What's right for you is that one, that's, I'm okay, you're okay. And that was one of the things that sort of got me started, because how can it be okay if you think it's all right to murder somebody or rape somebody? It just, these little things that we didn't think about. When I used to go give speeches all over the country about animal rights, and I'd stand up there and people would say to me, oh, I never thought of that. I never thought of it that way, because we haven't been talked about. Yeah, it's all right to eat meat and things. And the thing that really got me was the scientists. One of my first speech was in Montana to a group of scientists, and they had been, being attacked by animal rights because they were animal scientists. They had been being attacked for 30 years, and they had no idea that that what they were doing was wrong and how evil it is. They just thought, oh, well, they think different than us, but they know better. They want to control the world, and they want to reduce the human population by 93%, is it?
Yeah. Huge. Yeah. Huge. And so going back to how this affects, and let's go back to Humane Watch and your children having to listen to PETA, which PETA was a horrible group. There's still a horrible group. In fact, I had a gentleman on here who had a fur company for almost 100 years. And he was on the show up in Portland, and this was even before 2020, and they were protesting him and stuff. It literally put his family out of business. And they were the oldest carriers of fur coats and such. And it was just sad to see them being, destroyed. A good wholesome business, because, I don't understand why they're upset about the animals losing their fur. Once you're dead, does it matter? I'm not sure why they get so upset about it. But the thing is that it's not about the animals. It's about the communist revolution. It's about the Marxist revolution. The issue is never about the issue. And you can tie those animal rights issues directly to the gender nonsense that's going on. All the gay agenda, the trans agenda, the transhumanism agenda, all of that is part of eliminating the human species off the planet. And it's none of those things are about the issues they're directly talking about. They're all about the revolution and changing policies so that we are no longer a free republic.
And you're absolutely right. And I want to say one thing to all your people. When people start arguing with you about this issue, because they don't understand it or know it, once you explain it to them, it's like, oh, I never thought of that. You know, it's just amazing. And yet people don't think about it, you know, wearing fur. When my kids came home from school with that, I asked to talk to the class, and I went in there, and so I said, well, how many of you guys have leather shoes on? Well, all of them did, you know. And so I started saying, well, what's the difference between wearing leather and eating the meat of the animal that the leather came off of, or wearing silk or cotton? Even they'd be against cotton because of the bugs that are killed to keep the cotton fields clean. It's simple. But you have to stop and use your reasoning mind and saying, what's wrong with this picture? Why would they be against fur? You know, because nobody challenges them on their thought. And
right.
And once you hit them with this, they don't have anything to come back with. I used to debate them in universities around the country. And let me tell you, I was terrified. I was a shy person back then. And I'd get up there and I kept waiting. When are they going to hit me with something? When are they going to? But they don't have anything to hit you with, because what's wrong with eating eggs? You know, I mean, all those eggs aren't growing to go into baby chicks anyway, but it doesn't matter because, you know, they don't want you to have I have chickens and bees, and I'm sure my bees are even, I'm not supposed to have them because we shouldn't be eating their honey. The honey is for them. It's so ludicrous that you would think, but only because they programmed all the people in the schools for how many decades before they started coming out with this. So they didn't have the reasoning minds that would go back and say, but what about? They didn't, people know, they think, oh, well, that's what he thinks. I don't like that, but I can eat my meat and he can eat his tofu and it's okay. But those are the little things that people get stuck on instead of the underlying issue is anti-human. That's all it is. It's anti-human.
And can I ask you something? You're sitting in behind you is a window, and there's kind of a glare on you. Oh, that's okay. There you go.
My office is a mess because I'm packing up. I want to move home to Montana, and so I had to move into the living room, and I'm a little sore.
So where are you at now? In DC?
In Tennessee.
So I was watching a video of you, and I hate to get off the subject because we'll get right back to it, but I was watching a video of you. I think it was you that you were at the University of Tennessee. You had sued for a public records request, and they had denied you because they said that the email wasn't actually a legitimate part of a university business or something like that, but yet it really was.
Of course it is, but they use any excuse, and the lawyers try to go up the next step. But remember, most of the lawyers are now been into schools too, and they're either programmed to be on the other side, or you can only fight things so much. It's especially,
and you fought that quite a ways. I was watching that video, and then I watched the appeals. You fought that a long ways. Was that expensive, or did you have someone help you out with that?
No, a law firm covered it.
That is so nice, because that's one of the largest problems we're having with a lot of issues. Just the election integrity, the executive sessions that they have where they keep meetings closed and keep us out, and so yeah, we have a lot of, you know, or they'll charge us a lot of money for it. They'll say, oh no, it costs a lot of money, and I'm like, well, okay, how is an average citizen supposed to find out about their government if their government is not allowing them the access and putting up financial barriers to do it? It's just incredible.
And it's the government that has also been programmed to that. So you know, like I say, they've had so long, they've been able to take over every aspect of our country. Look at all the doctors that are in prison right now for being against the COVID shots. You know,
Right.
where this makes me sick because there should, you know, we're the ones that should be out on the streets protesting all this. We should be the ones that are saying this has got to stop. But
Yes.
where are we?
Well, that's because we're not suffering cognitive dissonance. And so, and then you go back to moral relativism. They have find any right or reason whatsoever to go out and protest, where most of the people on our side, all of them work all day. You know what I mean? It's hard for them. They're raising kids. These are farmers, ranchers, fishermen. These are people who are, salt of the earth, work with their hands kind of people who, we beg and plead with them. You're the exact type of person that we want on these boards and these councils. But it's hard because they're the ones making a living. And then you flip that, and it seems like the left, seems like all their people seem to have a lot of time. They get a lot of money. It seems unequal. And I'm glad that the government finally closed down the USAID fund to all these NGOs, because that's the other one. And PETA is an NGO, I believe. The Humane Society is an NGO, and all of them you can't get records from because they don't fit under the public records request, but yet they get funding for this.
Oh, but that's the big thing. They're all being funded, and things that cost so much more now. So we can't, but we're going to have to, because they're destroying the farms. They say they're going to put in one of those carbon capture pipelines, and
Yes.
They go and they survey the property, and they take if you don't give it to them, they can take it under eminent domain. And now what they're doing is they're taking it under eminent domain, and they're not building the pipelines, thank God, but they're not building the pipeline, but then they can take and resell that property, and they are taking people's money. They're taking away their lives. They're taking away their homes. And I mean, when do we say no? When do we say stop? We all have to stop fighting it, because they have all the money in the world. They're printing however much money they need. Where it's like, and you say, well, what are we going to do? We can't compete with them. Like we said at the beginning, you just got to start at the bottom, because we let this happen for too many generations, and there's no other way to do it. President Trump could shut down all of the departments that we hate, but it isn't going to do anything until we take back our country at the roots, right at the home base.
Right. Absolutely. And that's why we're doing this. That's why we have put any offices above the county in second, and everything in the county first. And that's because as a county that has a lot of natural resources, I mean, just by accident, Kathleen, we should be the wealthiest county on the southern coast. I mean, we got trees going out forever. We got oil, we got natural gas here. We've got, all the natural resources that are just not being used here because they don't want to use them. Once again, because they don't want humans to populate any more than what we already are. I'm kind of with Elon on this. I think we need more humans, because I believe at some point in time, the next evolution is going to be space travel. And those are going to be the where we're going to need a lot of humans to go and populate space. And I know people might think I'm a weird conspiracy theorist on that, but that's what people in science are looking at now, is populating outer space. And you've already got the people here on this planet going, oh, no, we can't spread. We can't leave the planet. We got to keep the people here and eliminate, like you said, 90% of them, so that we can have authority over them.
Yeah, I don't understand what they're going to do without us, but I mean, who's going to give them, who's going to provide their food?
Yeah.
I mean, that's a key thing, their food. They don't know how, they couldn't raise a cow I mean, and they're the ones that, I mean, they eat steak and caviar and all of that, but they can't provide it. They don't have the ability. They don't have enough common sense. They only know how to be evil. And this is truly evil.
Right. And everything we just mentioned, going back to education, going from PETA being in the schools, promoting animal rights. Now they have the gay agenda where they're trying to promote same-sex relationships over normal relationships. And I would call heterosexuality normal, because I believe that's just the normal basis of the species. Call me crazy. And now they not only that, now they're pushing trans agenda, where they're telling young kids, well, if you don't feel like you're a girl when you're a girl, well, you could be a boy. And they're encouraging this, and they're literally mutilating children here in Oregon because the child says something that they can use to basically completely destroy that child's identity. It's ludicrous. And so then you've got the transhumanism agenda, where, and this is where I disagree with Elon Musk. He wants to put a chip in our brain, and he wants us all to be connected to the mainframe. And that to me is the scariest damn thing ever. Let's talk about collectivism. Wait until we're all connected on the same server, right?
Well, that's the next step, is to have us all being programmed. In 1984, Brave New World. I mean, Huxley knew, I mean, his brother or cousin, whatever, was the first director of the UNESCO, United Nations in educational.
That's right.
So they knew what was coming, and they told us, but they always tell us what's coming. And how do we always take it? I mean,
we miss it every time. Mein Kampf. You know what I mean? If most of Germany would have read Mein Kampf before 1933, or when it was written, 30, I forget. But, if they would have read it before all that happened in Germany, they might have gone, well, I've read this guy's book. I don't think we should be voting for it. And he was elected. He was legally elected to office. So people don't realize that.
Yep. But he also had stormtroopers back then, too. Sort of threatening people. So I'll vote for you. But we can look at history. The sad thing is, most of our history that we know is not our history. If you start looking at what happened at Yalta, say, for instance, Yalta, or any of the other, all of the wars, I mean, it's, and how our government aided and abetted Germany, and the bankers covered both sides of the war. I mean, think about it, an easy way to get rid of a lot of people. But and what we did to China. I mean, China had 10% population that were communist, but we forced Chiang Kai-shek to share the government with the communist Chinese, and we gave them the right to all the minerals and things in Manchuria, which has the best minerals in the world, and gave them half of the railroads in Manchuria. All these things. If you go back, none of our history is what we learned in school. None of it.
And which is that's even common and more true today. I mean, you're talking about history 70 years ago. History 2 years ago has been so twisted and turned. It's almost like I don't know what to believe, because everything I've been told is a lie, and so I only have what's before my eyes.
That's me. And the more I learn, the madder I get, but the more I want to learn. It's just, and I'm saying, and how far is this going to get me? But I feel so strongly about it. I have to just keep fighting. I mean, I don't want my grandchildren and to live in the world that I see what they're moving into. I
Right.
just don't.
The big part, and this is the big word, and this was something that I don't know why it stuck with me years and years ago when I started seeing it. And it was because I've been involved with government going back to the mid 90s. And I was an advisor for Governor Gary Johnson in New Mexico. So I've been, doing this for a little while. And so I saw the word sustainability pop up. And then everything was sustainability. I mean, there wasn't anything with any document that didn't have the word sustainability, sustainable development, sustainable forestry, sustainable fishing. And I looked more into this word, and it really didn't mean what they were using it. And so this is what I always tell people. People don't survive on sustainability. People survive on adaptability. And this is one more proof or another layer to show that the government and forces in the government and the globalists want to eliminate us because they're wanting us to depend on these plans that they are creating for our lives based on sustainability. The problem is that there is no one nowhere that I know who can predict the future, so that if we get entrapped into these plans, these smart cities, this sustainable system, we have no maneuvering room for adaptability. We've locked us all in. And I think that's what they want to do, because at a certain point, they want to eliminate us. So the sustainability is the elimination of the human population, is the way I see it. And we need to get back to adaptability, where people and humans respond to the current needs of what we're doing. And to say that, no, we got to plan out our life for 5-10 years. Those 5-year plans didn't seem to work in the communist countries. I don't know why they think they're going to work here.
It doesn't matter, because the idea isn't about sustaining anything, like you say, but they don't want adaptability. But what they're doing is, with everything they're doing, the Wildlands Project, you've seen the map of that. Yeah. Everything they're doing is to put us into that. That's what the smart cities are for and everything. But what it is taking away your property rights. And if you don't have the right to property, you are not free. You are not free to do anything. If you don't have the right to property, the only thing you have the right to is your thoughts. And those thoughts are going to be synchronized with everybody else's thoughts, right? So right. You're going to be happy with that, and you'll own nothing, and you'll be happy. And hey,
and the sad part is I was just recently at the county fair working directly with people, getting petition signatures. So you have to talk with people and connect with them. And there were a lot of young people who are buying into this globalist thing, that we need a global government, a one world government that's just and benevolent, who's going to take care of all of us equally. And I'd always ask, where has that ever worked? Who's ever done? Well, they just haven't done it right. And I said, well, what kind of government would you call that? I would call that a tyranny. I would call it fascism or communism. And of course they go, oh no, it's a form of socialism. And we know the globalists have this Fabian socialist idea that they want to impose on the world. Well, I would always say, well, isn't it funny that that's never worked anywhere in the world? Can you cite a place that it's never worked? And of course they come back, well, it's never been tried right. And I said, but did you know that in each one of those countries where it's been tried, that all of them had to use rudimentary free market values, capitalism, to survive and sustain, I use that word, sustain their communist socialist government. So my question to you, and I pose this to the young people, if you want me to accept a policy that has never worked anywhere, even though it's been tried 100 times, 100 different ways, and yet you want me to reject the one economic system that has lifted everyone, including the people you praise, the socialists and the communists, why would you want me to go with the socialism over the capitalism when it has been successful 100% of the time and socialism has failed 100% of the time? And of course, they look at you and they have no answer.
They It's what they're looking for is an oligarchy, which is the whole world run by a few people. But you're absolutely right. But the question, I think you need to keep digging at them. Well, think about it. Why hasn't it worked? What do you think it is that they're not doing right? Because we got to get kids to start thinking 10 steps out, not just
Right.
one step. Who said this to you? Well, my teacher said this, so I believe it. We have to get them to really start thinking about, okay, how is it in America we're allowed to have guns? And you look in, say, England, where they don't. We're the safest country in the world. Why do you think that is when we have all these guns? But it's truly, truly, truly about getting people to start thinking for themselves, because that's what the schools are doing, is they're programming people so that they take everything in and they don't ever question. Start questioning the teachers. I think that would be a great thing, because they start questioning those teachers. Those teachers don't have the answers because they've been programmed. They have no idea. And I helped a young girl who was writing a book, and she was in college in California. And she had one teacher that she actually worked on to start thinking, and she got him thinking. But what they're doing now, teachers don't teach, they spew the program. And if you start asking them questions about it, they have no answers. And I think if we could just get a bunch of kids to start asking those questions, and they're simple questions. Well, why does this happen? Not just accept it and write it down and answer the test. This was the answer she gave. This is the answer I have to give. It's, we got to start every level we can.
One of the best things I did is I sent my kid to public school, but it was here in Bandon, and I was very much involved. In fact, I was one of the few fathers who went from kindergarten until 8th grade, coaching, taking them on field trips, reading the books in classroom, watching them during recess. I did all of that. You know what I mean? And that was great, because I wanted to be there. I had the ability to do that. So that's what I wanted to do. So I would teach my kid, and that these teachers are going to lie to them. That, they put these teachers on a pedestal, but they're human just like everyone else. And some of them are good, some of them are bad. And you got to be watching what they say and what they do. And he had a teacher who was pushing socialism, who was pushing the gay agenda. And she was talking about redistribution of wealth, and she wanted the kids to write a report on it. And I gave him the book by Glenn Beck, Arguing with Liberals, I think was the name of the book. And he took that to school. And it was amazing how so many other kids, like I said, because we're country people, they were standing up to the teacher. They were telling her, this is wrong. This isn't right. And she would have to say, I know this. I'm not pushing one side or the other, which she was. But, and I even challenged her when I went to parent teachers night. And I said, you showed the movie A Birth of a Nation, which is a very racist movie. And then you told everyone that's the kind of country we were all racist back then. And I'm thinking that's horrible. We actually sacrificed a lot of our young men to fight for the freedom of another race. How dare you? Name another country who's ever done that for anyone. We did it here in America. And so, I said, why didn't you do something else, like have them read the book, The Wealth of Nations? Instead of showing them, A Birth of a Nation, have them read the book, The Wealth of Nations by Adam Smith, and you would be actually doing them a service, trying to show a movie that was not even popular back then and didn't even represent the majority of the country, and then try to play that movie that's now about 100 years old and say that somehow contemporary America is based on this racist movie from 100 years ago. It was infuriating. And I told her, you're doing a disservice to the kids. And as far as I'm concerned, you shouldn't even be teaching. And she got upset with me. She got upset with me. And I told her I don't care, because she eventually quit teaching. a couple of years later, and she's always up here at the corner when they have the protest, the King's protest. Yeah, and you're like, really, lady? But that's what you have to deal with in school, and you have to challenge them.
Yep. And we do, but we have to teach our kids at the dinner table how to challenge them.
That's right.
We have to be involved with our kids, and we got to see what they're learning. And if we look at their school books, their social studies, since we don't have geography and all that stuff, and see what they're putting, and then have them go to school and ask the questions that need to be asked for what's being taught that day.
Yes, absolutely. And it's something that a lot of young parents, they're not, I don't know, they're just not ready for it yet. And kids going to school, I'm trying to educate them. I'm trying to teach them. And now that I've got a grandkid, it will be exactly the same way when she goes to school. I get an email, because I'm on their email list. Years ago, I got this. I've been getting emails from ICLEI from a long time. Can you see that on screen?
Yep.
And this was just an email that was just sent to me from ICLEI. I thought it was strange. I had just called you, and then ICLEI puts this out, and it says, "Put your plan on the map. Atlas of Sustainability Action Planning." And of course, they've got their little maps of the cities, counties, and towns that they're taking over. And then it says, across the country, local governments are building resilience and advancing sustainability. That means damn near nothing. That doesn't even make sense.
It doesn't, but I'm going to look it up, and I might have to write an article about it. ICLEI was one of the first NGOs that they were using to go after us, and they're everywhere. They sort of take a back seat when they have the upfront stuff. There are more areas that they're going after right now, and they're just swamping us with this.
Yes. And this is, and like you said, they have so much of the public's money. I mean, this is UN. They get a lot of American tax dollars. They get money from other places. And I want to read this right here. It says, "Is your sustainability, climate, or other relevant plan on the map?" So they're encouraging people to create these sustainability maps. And once again, how can you plan what's going to happen 5, 10, 15 years down the road? It's just mind-boggling if they want to do this. And then they've got the Road to COP30 monthly webinar. COP30.
Well, they're going for it because they're still believing in, they're still promoting the global warming stuff. They're going to promote that forever. But if your city's on the map, you have to understand that all cities need to become smart cities. And a smart city was designed by the Russians for East Germany, called The Ideal Communist City.
Right.
And that's a really good book to read. It's short, but it basically tells you exactly what a smart city is. You're going to live in an apartment building, and there's going to be stores underneath you, and the school is going to be right there. And when your kids grow up, then you have to go to some other area of the building to live where you don't need that extra bedroom or two. I mean, it is totally, it tells you exactly what they're doing. And this was written when they had taken East Germany. And like I say, it's a short book. You can still get a copy of it, or you can go on American Policy Center and look up The Ideal Communist City. I've done a number of articles on it, but
actually I was looking at them earlier today. So you still have those articles there. Yeah.
Yep. All of them.
And that's great, because that's a great tool for people like me. I'm always pushing the American Policy Center. I'm always sending your articles out to people. And even if your city is not part of ICLEI, or not part of, in a way, all of them really are, because that policy, it siphons its way down to little cities like here in Bandon. And one of the things I did here in Bandon was years ago, the city wanted to push the Dark Skies Initiative. And that was where we could only have a 60-watt bulb on our house with no outer lighting, and all the street lights were going to be turned off. We were going to live in complete darkness here in Bandon, which is, I don't know if you've been on Southern Oregon. It's pretty dark here all the time anyway, but it was sad that they wanted to do this. And they actually passed the law. And luckily, Oregon has a referendum process where I went out, I got enough signatures, and we won and defeated the city by 55 to 45%, which I thought we should have got 60 or 65. But it was sad that, only that many were fighting against it.
But you hit on an important thing that I don't think Tom and I have discussed, but referendums are great, and if we could get it in each state, referendums can, my husband was an attorney, and he was the attorney for both Prop 13 and recall Rose Bird in California. Rose Bird was a Supreme Court justice who wanted to get rid of the death sentence, and he had her recalled. So yeah, I've been involved in different ways with a lot of things, but if you get I know that they would be putting through referendums, but if we had referendums, that gives you a chance of debating the issue and getting the issue out there. So I think we need to look at it.
Yeah, I lived in a state where you couldn't do that. New Mexico didn't have a referendum process, which was very unfortunate. And I agree that, you don't have to have an initiative process where you create laws, but when bad laws are passed, referendums are a great way for the public to say, no, wait a minute, one toke over the line, sweet Jesus, we're not going there. And that's what we did. And we said no. And it was, I don't know if I still have the record, but we are the only city who has actually passed the Dark Skies Ordinance that it was then rejected by the citizens. I think we're still the only city who's done this.
But it gave you a tool. I love it.
Yeah. And it was a cool tool because going back after I won that election to the city council, I am not a shy man, and I do not hold back on my words. And I told them that they knew that the people were against this and that they passed it ingenuously, and that we will see them in the next election. And of course, that was the problem. We couldn't get any good people to run. And that's our big no choices. And that's our big problem.
Yep. That's one of our big problems.
One of our big problems. So we're pulling out the dams here in Oregon. And I know you have recently wrote an article about that. And I need to go up there to the river, the Klamath River, because the environmentalists are saying, oh, what a success it is. The salmon are coming back. The trees are coming back. The animals are coming. And then I'm hearing other people saying, no, wait. That's not quite what's happening here. We've literally destroyed a river, and probably for a little while.
Well, not only does it hurt the river, it killed a lot of fish, they said that they were doing it for. But what they're doing, why they're taking out the dams, is for two reasons. One is water for your whole area, and the other is for the energy. They produce energy, and they're doing this not just around. They're doing it in Europe. They're doing away with dams, and people don't understand that. And I've been in on the Columbia River Basin project. I don't know if you know. Yes.
Oh, yeah.
I went to the original meeting they had on that, and when they got finished telling us they were going to do, they wanted to bring it back to pre-Columbian times, no dams, all this. And I said, well, what you really sound like you're saying is no white man, because that's what pre-Columbian times were.
Right.
Whoa, did I get shut down fast? But that's exactly it. I mean, help
Right.
reduce the population, and the population, white men are the ones that brought in this moral absolutes and everything. We got and the ones that think about property rights, everything. So we are the ones that need to be done away with, and the dams are part of it. But it's also that so the farmers won't get irrigation. I mean, that's happening in Montana, and people don't understand that. They think, oh, but it's the fish. All they need is fish ladders. Fish ladders can make it up the dam. They have it. It's proven. But it's all lies. This is the thing. You're fighting lies, and when you're fighting lies, there's no basis for their stuff. So they have to make up other stories behind them, another lie and another lie and another lie, and people don't see it. Because they haven't been educated in a proper school, so they can't see. It's time to ask, why do you keep adding these things? Let's just get down to basics. Do fish ladders work? How much money are they? Next to nothing. But there's so many dams that have already been taken down.
Yeah, I know. And they have no idea of how they're going to, well, they are not sure how they're going to replace the energy. We know they were pushing the wind turbines. They wanted to put 200, almost 300 off the coast here of Oregon. It was horrible. We were fighting that tooth and nail. And talking about, we didn't do a referendum, but we've got the county commissioners of two different counties, Curry County, which is south of Coos County, my county. We got both county commissions to pass an advisory question asking the citizens, are you for or against the wind turbine project? And we overwhelmingly, people were against it. 60% of them voted against it here in Coos County. Get this, 80% of the people in Curry County said no to the wind turbines.
Wow, 80%.
80%.
They're ugly. They don't live a long time. They hurt the whales. They probably hurt a lot of other sea creatures, but the whales are big and you notice them. But all of this stuff, the solar panels, when they get done with them, they put them under the earth, so there's nothing's going to grow there anymore anyway. A hailstorm will take it out. You can, all of it is, and it's only energy that they can use, but it doesn't provide energy. It just saves some energy. And it's all crazy. But if you don't, this is another thing, start asking the questions. Well, it's like when Colorado, one city and county in Colorado had 12 of their school buses all be electric buses in Colorado. So as soon as the snow came, no more buses, no more kids could go to school. Hello, is that hard to figure out? This is it. What's going to happen in the winter time? It just, we are not running out of oil. We'll never run out of oil because it is not a fossil fuel. Fossils have nothing to do with making oil. But if you call it fossil fuel, you'll say, well, there's no more fossils. But where there used to be wells, they're now building up again. And it's cheap. It works. What more do you want?
And that's what I keep asking them. I said, this country has lived on oil for a long time, and now we're using it cleaner and more efficient than ever before. And to me, all this money that we're putting into this junk science, the solar panels, the wind turbines, we should be using that money to find out better ways to utilize the actual energy that we know is consistent. And it works. We know it works. It's been tried. It's been tested. We know this works. And so that's the other thing that just drives me crazy. The people who are promoting these wind turbines, it's like, well, what's wrong with good old fashioned oil? Well, it's dirty. It's this, it's that. And it's like, well, you're putting these huge structures, floating structures. They're the same size as the Empire State Building. Each wing, 3 wings or 3 blades, each of those are the length of a football field. And they're made of very caustic materials, and materials that we can get everywhere. We get a lot of these from China and stuff, and we depend on China to support this stuff. And not only that, there are transformation centers where they have to transform the power and cool down the generators. Get this, each transformer station in the ocean, because they're 13 miles out and 3,000 feet of water, which is crazy. They have to have a transfer station, and that will suck up, get this, 8.1 million gallons of ocean water a day, and it will heat it up to 90 degrees using chemicals, and then that heated water and those chemicals are released into the ocean, and they have the nerve to call this green energy.
Exactly. You hit the point exactly. None of it is green. It's damaging. The wind turbines on land are killing the eagles. Everything about them is negative, and they know it, but they sell it because it helps to impoverish us. We have to pay a lot more money for all this stuff, and it isn't getting us anywhere. But remember, their bottom line is not what our bottom line is, and
Right.
That's what they're going for.
Right. Yeah, absolutely. And so luckily, our president, who has great wisdom, he did 2 things in the last couple of weeks that were just awesome. He's done a lot of awesome things, but the last 2 weeks he stopped those wind turbines from being those call areas, got rid of them, got rid of all those call areas on the coast here. Love the man, just really created he did a benefit to all of us here in this community. He saved the fishing industry. He literally saved the fishing industry in Oregon. And we provide a huge percentage of the fish, the seafood for the rest of the country and around the world. And the other thing that he did was he put out that directive, that mandate that killed the electric vehicle mandates and a lot of the other Green Deal new policies that he just implemented. I think it was just last week. And those are 2 things that are going to go far as stopping a lot of this nonsense. I don't know what he's doing about the 3030 project that they're doing.
I don't think he's on it yet, but I want to give you one third thing. He shut down the Department of Education.
Oh, that's right. And then he did that. I knew he was going to do that when he put Linda McMahon in charge of it. I thought that was the perfect person to take it out. I mean, you know what I mean? Because this woman has to deal with professional wrestlers. I mean, the wrestling industry and the entertainment industry, they're very competitive. They're very aggressive. And I thought Linda McMahon is the perfect. I mean, look at the guy she was married to for all those years. She's a fighter. You know what I mean? So she was great to put in that position. And I just thought it was excellent because their heads were rolling when he named her as Secretary of Education. And now that they're closing down the department, God, that's beautiful.
Yep. But you're right about all of that. It's all smoke and mirrors. It's all, if people started looking at how damaging it is to our earth, and Gates wants to put up a shade to keep the sun. We need the sun. We need CO2. And if people, and 0.04% of our air is CO2. I mean,
right.
and yet that will destroy us but it helps if they get rid of, that the cows need to eat the plants that are grown because of CO2. If you start looking at it, they have what they're doing works in order to destroy everything, not to build it up.
I agree with you. It's not they're not looking to further the future of mankind only for certain people. And
Yep.
those certain people, they're in a club, and you and I ain't in that club. So unfortunately, that's okay. We're going to keep fighting on the outside. I've got a question for you that was interesting. Years ago, I had a friend who was telling me about chemtrails. And of course, I'm thinking, buddy, I don't know what you're smoking. No, this isn't happening. They're chemtrails. They're spraying the skies. But now, after listening to Biden talking about how they were manipulating the weather and their plans on putting particles in the sky, I'm starting to wonder if maybe my friend was in on it or not. You know what I mean? He might have been right. What do you think with these chemtrails? I'm still don't know.
There's a scientist, his last name is Wigington. You need to look him up. He can explain it all to you because, back in, around 2000, I think, Tom asked me to research it. And I did a lot of research and I thought, no, it isn't happening. It isn't happening. But, I kept researching and researching. And I mean, now they basically they admit it.
Yeah.
In fact, and they're also this cloud seeding to make rain, but it's also damaging. But what really got to me is in the last couple of months here, we've had clear skies, numerous days. We banned chemtrails here, but of course, they come from thousands of miles away, so we don't always have. But it's the first time in years I've seen a true blue sky with real big, fluffy, beautiful clouds.
That's interesting.
So it is.
And that's where they get us. See, you talk about not only, are they trying to direct our thought patterns, they're trying to create a narrative that we're going to buy into, and especially the children. That's why they want to get a hold of them and early and in education and stuff and indoctrinate them. But when you're talking about adults and you're looking at an issue, and this chemtrail issue is the perfect issue, you don't want to be put in the category of a flat earther or a Bigfoot searcher. And I've had both of them on the show. So I know, and I've told them straight out, I don't believe the earth's flat and I don't believe in Bigfoot. But this chemtrail thing, it was really hard to accept that my government could be doing something this to me. But then, the history of the American government and how they've lied to us. And you just gave several examples of that. You have to go, really makes you go,
Well, look up Dane Wigington and watch some of his stuff, because I have a really good friend. My best friend here kept telling me, he says, I love you. I think you're great. And you know about so many things, but there's no such thing as chemtrails. There's contrails. I said, my father was in the Navy and we lived on a naval base for a while. And those contrails look about that long up in the sky, and then they disappear. These don't disappear. They just sort of fade away. So check it out. And get him on your show.
I will. I'll definitely do that, because I'm so interested in now. And in fact, I still know the guy who got me turned in on the chemtrail thing. I'm going to let them know I'm going to have someone on to talk about this, because now I'm starting to believe that this was all real and that we have been really badly experimented on. This is an experiment. We are human lab rats for our government. And we know, in what was it, Tuskegee, and other places, that they have done these kinds of things. So you do have to worry about it.
MK Ultra. Hey, if they can do that to us, what wouldn't they do to us?
That's a good point. And that's a very good point. The nice thing is, though, 2020 happened, Kathleen, and people woke up. They woke up and they realized they're lying to us. They're lying to us on a monumental level. And not only are they lying to us, but they're censoring all the rest of us. And I think that woke up a lot of people now who are saying, well, I didn't believe in those chemtrails, but that could be a possibility. I didn't believe in that sustainability BS, but I'm starting to think there was something to it. So I think 2020 actually helped out our side. What do you think?
It did. We didn't know it then. We know it now. I have been blessed because I write for a person who works for different journals on issues of, all across the spectrum. And I was asked to do research on Wuhan. And I ended up talking to people in China. Now, the scary thing was a couple years ago, they started calling me, asking me to have the journal that I wrote it for take out my article. The Chinese were asking me to have it taken out because, of course.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wait,
I was
that
like,
actually happened? They were asking?
Yes.
Oh, wow.
And so the guy who got me the assignment said, when you see the Chinese phone number, just don't answer it anymore. No, I'm not going up. But
That's funny.
it was not funny.
Yeah.
Funny,
That's
not funny.
funny,
Yeah.
not funny. Yeah, I get it. Yeah, that's wow. That is, that Oregon, this is going to blow your mind. Oregon is the only state that has an Oregon Chinese Council. And
An
that
Oregon Chinese what?
an Oregon China Council. It's an actual government sanctioned group to encourage business between Oregonians and China. And right now, Oregon is the largest trading partner of all the states with China. Did you know that?
I would be scared to death because Oregon was the first state that they brought all this stuff into. So
Yep.
You're the ideal state to start the Chinese. My dog is making that noise.
I love dogs. That's okay. Dogs and children don't bother me. I love them. I had a Craig Rucker was on here, and through his office walls, I could hear kids playing, and I thought they were there. I was all, Craig, your office sounds like you got a bunch of kids there. And he goes, no, that's the lady in the next office watches children. And so I said, that's okay. I don't mind crying. Whining dogs and crying babies do not bother me. What kind of dog?
7 parts hound, Malamute, and 2% coyote.
Oh my, you've got some active dog there.
He's very smart.
Good.
Can I let him out the front door?
Please do. Go right ahead.
I'm sorry, because
No, go right ahead. And so while you're doing that, I'm going to let everyone know, in case you guys didn't catch the show at the beginning, we are not doing the Where's 3H Tree Service because we already got a winner. And congratulations, Mr. Smith, for winning that that prize. We'll be doing that next week. On next week's show, we'll be doing Where's 3H Tree Service. So I hope you all can join us because, it's a really fun game and you can actually win something. It's a service provided to you by 3H Tree Service, a good group of people. And right now I'm talking with Kathleen Marquardt, and she is someone who has been on the Agenda 21, the Agenda 2030 for a long time. So we're very lucky to have this woman here because I think you're one of the foremost experts on this stuff. I mean, I really do. Your years of studying and output of articles. Like I said, I think it's been about 15 years now that I've been watching. How long is that Geraldo show? When did you do that?
Wow, that was a long time ago.
That was.
I can't even remember. I did a lot of. Had me on several times.
Oh, okay.
So
that's cool. That's cool because yeah, and that's good to have people who are willing to take that risk and put people on the show, because there are people who, like you said, there is a force out there who wants to silence people. And luckily China didn't call Geraldo and say, oh, you can't have that Kathleen woman on there.
But Geraldo, wants controversy. I mean, that's what makes his show. He wants,
Yeah, I know. That's always a good thing too. I mean, I'll do that myself. Which is funny because you used to be controversial with the Humane Watch. I thought I took a little bit of flack from, oh my gosh, she's against protecting animals, and I'm all, no, she's for protecting humans and human rights. And so we would, I'd have people who'd get mad about that. But it's like now you're not even as controversial as you were before, because I think this is a mainstream conversation that people are having now. They're starting to wake up to the Agenda 21 and the sustainability BS. Don't you think even more today?
Yes, I do think so. I agree. It wasn't that I was so controversial. It was because the issue back animal rights. I mean, I love animals. I have pets and everything. But the animal rights movement is so extreme. When I used to go to the grocery store, when I was living in a suburb of Washington, D.C., and I go to the grocery store, and I don't know how they did it, but often there'd be one of the animal rights people follow me around saying, effing murderer, effing murderer. And all these people are looking at me as if I'm the one that's being bad, and they're using this foul language. And they tried to break into my car several nights in a row, and then they started to made some noise at the front door. And do you want a good story?
Sure.
So my husband, he was blind without his glasses. And so the deal was, if they came to the door, if they tried to break in, they could get in downstairs, but I was sure going to be upstairs with a shotgun and ready to meet them, and he'd be calling the police. So I'm up there at the top of the stairs, and I had no idea. And finally, the police came, but I was very fortunate to make friends with the head of the FBI's terrorist division. But nice. The next morning, I heard my two daughters talking, and I don't even remember one of them getting up while I was doing this, and she said to my other one, "Oh, you should have heard Mom last night. She was she was standing at the stairs, and she had the shotgun, and she's saying, 'Come on, come on.'" I had no idea. You practice and you think about these things,
right?
Because I mean, they sent me pictures of what they were going to do to my children. These people were horrible.
Yes.
I can't tell you how awful. I mean, this is how I got my start,
Yeah.
And I had no idea. And I love animals, and I love to eat them, and I love to wear them. But I have dogs always. I had a pet skunk at that time.
Oh, how funny. How funny. Yeah, that's interesting. That makes me mad, because you're such a nice woman, and you were doing it for such a good reason. And that's what people experienced in 2020 when they were, oh, we want to mutilate children. I'm sorry, you want to what? And somehow we were the bad guys because we wanted to stop them from mutilating the children. We wanted to stop boys playing in girls' sports. And part of that is also going back to what they want to do with our children and making them all the same sex. Everyone's the same sex. Everyone's the same person. We're all on the same teams. And they don't realize that we have significant differences, especially between the sexes. I mean, that's the biggest basic difference. But with the animal thing, they know how to play on our emotions. And you see the commercials for the Humane Society now. They got the shaking puppy in the cold, and they take all these pictures of all these poor animals, which I guarantee, yeah, sure, there are some out there, but then they put the Sarah McLachlan song on there, and it makes it all sad and sappy. And I could see anyone who's against that, you're the devil. But it's not what they're showing. That's what you talk about when you're talking about the brainwashing. The
Yep.
brainwashing, and I go about camera lenses and in the what you're viewing. What you're viewing in that commercial is about that much. But if you opened up the camera lens, you would see a lot more. And I always go back to an example in photography where the teacher showed us a picture of a baby crying and all this debris around the baby. It looked like the baby was in the middle of a war zone. That's this view. You opened it up and the baby was crying because they were celebrating the birthday of the baby and the baby got upset. But it was a happy occasion, not a bad occasion, because you only had this much lens. And I try to tell that story to people because what you're seeing, yeah, that may be true in this much, but you got to open it up and see the whole picture. And that's what they're not allowing you.
And they're making the pictures. I mean, PETA would save all of these cats. They would take in all these cats. They were killing them. They were killing them. All the, they say we're saving. And the fascinating thing about animal rights is the average animal rights activist has 5 pets each. And yet you're not supposed to have pets because pet ownership is an abomination brought about by human manipulation. And so they send them all this money. They just send in all this money and I ended up having to go to a meeting once in DC and it was really cold. So I wore my sheepskin jacket and my leather skirt and my boots. And the best part about it was Ben and Jerry's was there handing out ice cream to all these animal rights people that don't eat ice cream because it's got milk in it that came from a cow.
Right.
It's always that when you start asking, but you ask, why would a person that has 5 pets give money to PETA that wants to do away with pet ownership? It's beyond my ability to comprehend these things.
Yeah. Well, it isn't if, once again, I go back to the issue's not really about the issue. It's about the communist Marxist takeover our country. Yep. And that's something I've been pushing. I forget the gentleman who said that. And he actually made a film of talking about that, how they will push 2 steps forward or 3 steps forward and take 1 step back, and then they'll keep moving forward. But the progress always moves in one direction, even when we push them back. And that's why I get so mad at my senators, my Republican senators and my Republican representatives who think we can work with these people. We can reach across the aisle. And I keep telling them, these people want to eliminate you. They want to eliminate you. They wish you were not here. And if you think you can deal with people who want you gone, that's insane in itself. And they've told us this. They told us they want to eliminate us.
But do your senators really not know it? Or is it because they like to have that office and that position? Because I can't believe that a whole lot of them don't know what's going on, because you start looking at the legislation that's being proposed and who's voting on it and all. I can't believe that I'm sorry,
right.
I don't trust them.
You are absolutely right, and I shouldn't give them that cover because they know. And in fact, I know that some of them are on the take. I'll give you an example. The wind and solar projects that they have here in Oregon.
Yep.
There's a PAC here, a political action committee in the state that is funded by solar and wind companies. And that PAC, which gets its money from those green energy companies, gives money to not just the Democrats, but the Republicans as well. In fact, my Republican senator here who needs to be replaced, David Brock Smith, received $25,000 from that political action committee. And one of the companies in that political action committee was the last lease. He was bidding on the lease, was the last bidder in the wind area that they were trying to lease off. And it's like, you see these connections. So you're absolutely right. These people are not innocent. The Republicans are not innocent. They love the position. They love the prominence, and they love the money, because 25 grand, that's a lot for just one donation for a sitting senator in a rural county that probably represents less than maybe 100,000, 200,000. I don't know. It just seems like a lot.
Yep. No, you gotta. I hate to say it, but you gotta start looking under the curtain all the time, both sides. It's
Oh yeah, absolutely. And the other thing is that you can't just trust one side or the other because they play as against both. And this is what we found out with election integrity. We thought that the Republicans would support us on finding out if our voter rolls are clean, and they didn't. They don't want to get involved with that. And now we've got Judicial Watch suing the state of Oregon because of
great.
dirty voter rolls, and they just won. They're going to go forward with their case.
Great. No, it's that you're absolutely right. That it's like Congress in DC. How many of those do you think? How many of those Republicans you think haven't taken the money? I'm serious. I'm serious. That
Right.
it's just maybe I'm sure that some haven't, but then they're either being blackmailed or something else because it's like, I call it the Trey Gowdy syndrome. Man, they can stand up there, they can give the best speech and they can trounce on this guy. And what happens the next day? They're out to lunch together and nothing ever comes of it. But man, he could give a great speech. This is what we're watching. This is and we fall for it. Look at, he really went after that guy. You got to like him. We got to keep him off it. He never did anything. Sorry.
I tell
I'm
people,
skeptical.
do not listen to what they say. Look at their voting record. And all four of the representatives, the senators and the state reps who represent this county, all four of them get a 70 to a 60% rating from CPAC. And it's like, are you kidding me? We are a solid red county. We should have representatives who are the Rand Pauls, or the Masseys, you know what I mean? Who do you think is some of the best representatives that are on our side in Congress? And I hate to put you on the spot like that, but it's necessary to know this because you work with a lot of them.
No, I don't know. Marjorie Taylor Greene. What I was going to say is, if you start looking, you will see that each Republican in a lot of places, I won't say it's everywhere, gets enough votes for our side to have him look good when you look at his schedule, but they trade off who's going to vote yes and who's going to vote no for that. I need an extra step this time. I mean, I don't trust any of them. That's me. And Tom will tell you, she's really a skeptical person, but I've been up against too many.
Yeah. You should be a skeptical person. Boy, after all these years, how could you not be skeptical? And I try not, I don't want to be, but I just go with what I've experienced, what I've lived, what I'm going through now. And once again, being objective, an objectivist who tries to use reason to explain what's going on. And other than, what we talk about with globalism, sustainability, the UN, when you take it up to that 40,000 foot level, it's hard to relate it to right here on the ground where we're being directly affected to it. And I think what you and we're doing is really connecting those dots, because, who would think, oh, well, the UN, they're creating policy for our schools. And yeah, they are.
And they've been since they were formed. They've been doing this. And I'm telling you, because it was a Huxley, he knew from day one exactly what he needed to put out there. And basically, they want people to all think alike. And then they know that we're in line, and they can keep the useful idiots that can drill their oil or whatever, and get rid of the rest of us, and none of us are going to complain about it, because hey, we're so lucky to get to still live and buy our 3 pieces of clothing a year and live in a smart city. And maybe once every few years, they'll let us move more than 20 miles outside of town, right?
Right. And we're watching that literally happen here in Oregon. They've got new fees this year they've doubled the fees, more than doubled, for going camping, visiting the parks, the state parks. We've got a fee now for inner tubes in the river. You got to buy a license to go inner tubing in the river. That's nuts.
Oh, and where is the outrage? Come on, people. How many times do you have to bend over before you say, no, I'm not taking in this anymore? And I wanted to go back to one thing you were talking about, the kids and how they're all making them one sex. Hey, if you're the same sex, you're not making babies. So that'll help reduce the human population. You got to keep looking under everything they do. What does it do to benefit their side? And pretty soon we're not going to be allowed to even go tubing. Only the ultra wealthy are going to be able to go with tubing. All of this is, I mean, come on, who are we? We're the scum of the earth, according to them. We're just awful. We want to eat meat. We want to hunt. We want to fish. We want to have a life, and we want to make babies, right?
Right. So, absolutely.
That's
wow. Growing up, I'm 60 now. Growing up, that was the message. You want to go out, you want to find a wife, create a family, have kids. And, maybe at 20, I would have said, oh, that's a bunch of bullshit. I want to go party. But now, by the time I was 30, it's like, I'm looking for a wife. I'm looking to have kids. Now I've done all that, and I wouldn't give it up for nothing. It's the greatest thing in the world. And they're telling these kids that, oh, don't have children. You can't have children. If you have children, you're just bringing misery on earth. That's why they're promoting the abortion. It's and it's like, wow, we really have gotten to the point where humans are bad just because we exist. No, humans should exist. We're part of this planet. We're just as much as part of this planet as an oak tree or a daisy or a cow that we're milking. And we have every right. And that's what they always forget. We have rights as humans, and we'll fight for them. But in their world that they're creating, we no longer have rights. And you know how they take away our rights, Kathleen? They take away our responsibility, or we acquiesce our responsibility to the government, and then we lose our rights.
Yep. And they're going to take care of us, all this aid. But I think with the illegal aliens and all the stuff they gave, they trashed how many New York hotels by putting, and nice hotels. We're not talking about, and where are these New Yorkers that have had their cities trashed, and they're going to vote for this guy who's a jihadist or whatever? I mean, seriously.
A commie jihadist. He's a commie jihadist, and he's an anti-Semite commie jihadist that is potentially set to win the mayoralship of the largest city of the United States. And all I have to say, folks, go look at London right now. What's happening in London, that's coming here, and it's going to start in New York.
Yep. And California. Look at California. Look what they're doing there. I mean, boy, I knew Newsom in San Francisco. That guy, he's not that smart either.
Right. But that's it. They put a lot of stupid people in charge. Nancy Pelosi is not known for her intelligence. So and I see that here, is that we will get people who will fit a certain profile, but they're idiots. And because they fit the profile, they win the seat. And our guys who don't fit the profile, they're the blue collar worker. They wear blue jeans. Sometimes they wear overalls. Sometimes they got a beard that's about 4 inches long. And those sometimes are our candidates. And I tell people, what more do you want in a candidate than someone who actually works on the land that they're going to be deciding over?
But they don't want them because they would tell the truth in the meetings. They can't have those kind of people. They need the useful idiots like Nancy Pelosi and all, the greedy ones that are willing to do anything to be one of the World Economic Forum people that get invited to these meetings to eat their caviar and filet mignon and tell us we can't eat any of those things. I mean,
oh yeah, I love, you look at the houses they live in. Al Gore is a perfect example. I was looking at one of his houses. I have about 1,000 square foot house in Oregon. It's a little wooden house, 2 bedrooms, 1 bath. I wouldn't want more because I'm the homemaker, so I don't want to clean windows. So it's good for me. But the thing is that we, there's people who my house can fit in one of their spare bedrooms because their houses are so large, and they're telling me, Rob, you and your family have to cut back on your carbon footprint. And it's like, your carbon footprint is huge. Why are you lecturing me? And that World Economic Forum, I go back to the Oregon China Council. They adhere to the WEF sustainable goals.
Yep.
That's here in Oregon.
Yep, exactly. But it's don't do as I do as I say. And when I was a kid growing up, you'd hear these kind of things, and you'd hear how to ask why would you suggest that? But nowadays, and city council meetings, we had a big county council meeting over the COVID vax and all that stuff. Mm-hmm. And those of us who wanted to speak out against it had to sit up in the balcony because the news media was down below and they didn't want us to be seen, and our news, and this was in Knoxville. I'm outside the city now. Our news media, there were like 400 of us outside the building and maybe 2 or 3 of them. And who did they interview? Not one of us. Our news is so biased, and it's a crazy world. And why do we accept it?
Why do we
accept it? This is what makes me so mad. It's just
Yeah, and as activists, you sit there and you're like, this stuff is out there. This information. It's really not hard to go look up. Go find it yourself. We're not telling you anything that's my favorite. Is they always say, well, Rob, you're spreading misinformation. Well, what was wrong with what I just said? Well, it's misinformation. Well, can you give me a fact, a sentence, a word, something? And no, they just put that in print. Rob spreads misinformation. And then half of the people here go, well, see, Rob's a lying piece of crap. And they don't even look at what I'm saying or investigate it. And so once again, that's that mind control narrative, that psyops they do on us.
Well, you need to confront them and say, okay, what did I say have somebody keep filming it? What did I say that was misinformation? Because if it was, I'd like to correct it. And if it wasn't, I would like you to correct it.
Absolutely.
We've got to start facing them.
Well, that's the problem, though, Kathleen, is they won't let you face them. When they are in control of the meeting, you get 3 minutes if you're lucky. And then sometimes they limit that, you know what I mean? And so the only way that I really get to speak out is, well, I do the 3 minutes. I go to about 30 hours worth of public meetings every month. I would say probably about 30 hours of meetings. And that's a lot of damn work for a guy who's not interested in having a job doing that. But I have to do that because that's the only place I get that 3 minutes to stand up and espouse what I believe. We just defeated. Are you familiar with urban renewal?
No, not at all.
So urban renewal is one of those crazy plans that's based on sustainable development and public housing and all that nonsense that they're creating here in Oregon. It's been around for a long time. It goes back to the 50s on the federal level. But they had this huge urban renewal plan. We had taken over the school board. The school board pays 40% of the urban renewal debt. but it's backfilled by the state. So they always go to the school board first because they want to get that 40% right up front. Well, we took over the school board with good conservatives, and they did their homework on urban renewal, and they shot down a $33 million project for a city of 10,000 people, a $33 million project. And so because of things that were happening in the county, we weren't able to get our people elected because it's a long story, but we weren't able to get our people elected. They got the board back. They came back the very first meeting and they just approved that urban renewal. But I was there to speak out against it, because if I don't speak out against it, then people will think that everyone accepted it. But the nice thing was, Kathleen, we had 2 of our members still on that board, and boy, they raised hell. They really made some salient points and really put it back at the other board members. And that's something you normally don't see, because they all like to get along to go along kind of thing. And it was nice to have 2 people stand up against this nonsense. Even though they won, it was nice to have that type of opposition.
So you need to have people in the audience to be yelling, yeah, yeah, yeah. And you need to have people going and speaking all the time. You get 5 people to stand up there and basically say the same thing and challenge them. This is what we have to do. And I know, I totally understand not wanting to go up and be one of the, people protesting or whatever, but because like I say, I was very, very shy when I started all this, but, and I really, I didn't know that I could ever stand up for it, but there was no way they were going to think that they got me to shut up because they threatened me. So I stuck with it. And it wasn't easy, let me tell you, it wasn't easy, but if you can't stand up for this, go lie down, die. I mean, seriously, fight it or die, because that's what's going to happen anyway if you don't.
That's a damn good point. Fight it now or die. That's literally where we're going. And it's that significant, that impactful, that they are literally planning our death through these policies being pushed by the UN, Agenda 21, the 30-30. Oh, and by the way, I didn't mention to people what 30-30 was. President Biden had passed this thing where they wanted 30% of the United States to be public land, off reach of all human people, of human touch. And then it was 50-50. By 2050, they wanted 50% of the land in America to be off limits to humans.
And water. It's land and water. 50-50. And it's like I say, it's part of the Wildlands Project that they started, 30 years ago. Yeah. And they're going for it. And if I know most of your people have been on an airplane and flown across part of the United States. And if you look out that window and you look down, not much of the land is covered with cities and towns that are just, it's open land. It's beautiful. We live in a gorgeous country, and you look down and you keep saying, what is their problem? And when I was going to a debate down in Atlanta, I'm looking down and they were saying, cattle are destroying the earth, the ground. And I'm going, I don't see any cows down here. Well, what is your, why are you griping about it? And cows aren't destroying the earth. They're good. And they provide us protein that we need, that also works on our brain. If we have a brain and we start saying, wait a minute, I need these cows. Without these cows, I'm not going to live. I'm not eating bugs. I'm not eating grasshoppers. I'm not eating tofu. and we're not made to eat those things.
No.
So, but you gotta, it's all putting to make them realize you either stand up or be a coward and go away.
Go away. And I deal with those quite often, people who just refuse to get involved. And like you said, they're the first ones to complain. And you're like, well, my favorite is when they come up to the fair booth last week. It was great. They would come up and first thing you ask them, because you're getting them to sign petitions, are you a registered voter in Oregon? And as soon as they said no, I just turned the other way and just walked off. But I'd have some of them wanting to have a conversation. I go, wait a minute. You just told me you're not even registered to vote. Well, yeah, but I don't care what you think. In fact, you're the last person I want to talk to, because you don't even do the least thing you can do voting to help change this. And you want to talk to me about any of it? No, I don't care. If you've acquiesced that authority already, you serve no purpose for this project. And that it ticks me off when people do that. And I've told them straight up, just go away. I don't want to talk to you.
Good for you. I like that. That's a good answer. Yeah. Why talk to somebody that can't help?
No. And the thing was I talked to a lot of people who did help. And like I said, I am finding out that more people are awake now than ever before, and young people. You know, they were like I told you about the few young people who wanted the globalist government. Most of them are not that way. They see what's happening. They see what's going on in their schools. They're starting to wake up. And I think that this generation, and I'll give credit to President Trump for this. You had 4 years of young men growing up under President Trump's first term. And then you had this crazy 4 years with Biden, which I actually think was a good thing, because it gave us that difference. And then now we're back to Trump, and people see the sanity is back. And young men, usually young people, they can see the truth. In fact, kids are usually better at seeing the truth than most parents. That's just what I have found. And they are credible about espousing the truth, you know, without even knowing it. They'll say things that are just completely right, but completely inappropriate. But you love it because they do it. And so I found a lot of kids there at the fair who were just totally in tune with what's going on. And I'll be honest with you, it's been a long time since I've been at the fair. We just happen to have petitions this year. It's been a couple of years. So you lose that contact with these people, and you're not sure the barometer of judging, you know, your crowd. I felt so good. It felt really good to be at the fair and have these young people who I know are going to carry this message on. And you know, I'm promoting people like your group, the American Policy Center, and a lot of these other groups, the election integrity groups. And I try to promote this because you can't fight everything, but you can fight something. You just got to figure out. And the fight's right here at your front door, by the way. You know that. You had to pull a shotgun on them.
Yep. And people don't, you know, they think this can't really be happening, but it is. And the thing is, we got to recruit these kids while they still know it, and we got to get them to speak it up with their friends, with, you know, and I think they like it. They like fighting for what's right. And
I think they do too.
Pardon?
I said, I think they do too. I think
But we got to give them direction. We got to give them direction. We got to say, okay, we need to focus on this. And yeah, you can have all the subjects you want, but please help us do this one subject we're fighting for today. And I'll help you with your other subjects. But I mean, because it's everything. It's what we eat. It's what we breathe. It's what we wear. It's how we live. It's how we think. It's how we think while we can still think. Because if you read 1984, we're looking like we're going towards that pretty soon. It's we need them, and you don't have to look like a fool, and you don't have to stand up and be yelling and using foul language, but you have to show your concern and you have to show that you know the facts. I mean, that's
Right.
all you need. You don't need to have a lot of money, and you don't need to have long documents, write long pieces like I do. But
Right. And I do too, but you have to, because
yeah,
these aren't short subjects. I mean, the dam subjects are not short subject. The wind turbines. I mean, you can connect so much to these articles and more. It's almost, I find it impossible. I'm always cutting down my articles because I got 1,500 words, and it's like, okay, let's try to get it under 9. Try to get it under 9. And
well,
yeah,
they say you shouldn't write an art. Well, they used to say you shouldn't write an article over 1,200 words. Now they're saying 800. Well, you're not going to educate people. You're not going to get enough in there. Yes, sometimes you can get it with 1,200 words, but for the most part, I mean, what I want to do now is educate people. I want them to understand. They don't have to read the whole article. If you read the
Right.
first half and you get something from it, fine. But there are people that say, but I don't understand this and I don't understand that. So I'm always adding stuff to make sure that they get enough that they know what they're talking about. And you can always tell them to call me if they have questions, because I'm available. So
cool. And that's good. And I'm so glad you came on the podcast, because, sometimes I will have a show. I'm lucky to get 200-300 viewers. Sometimes I'll get 2,000 or 3,000. You know what I mean? It's not a lot of people, but it's people who tune into this show because they're interested in the subjects that I'm covering. And I know they're the ones who are going to be active. On radio, I had a captive audience because people were working on the roof. They'd be playing the radio. They have to listen to me. They turn me on in the car. But here on the podcast, I didn't know whether you knew this or not. I got canceled off the radio.
you got canceled?
Yeah, they canceled me.
I got canceled on Facebook.
Oh,
like
wow.
2020 or earlier. Yeah, I've been banned. Yes.
I know, huh? That explains why I couldn't find you on Facebook. Okay. Are you on Twitter? Are you on any social media now?
I sign up for them, but I'm so busy. I don't, it's basically American Policy Center. And I try to give a lot of speeches and everything. But when I was on Facebook, I kept saying, this takes up too much of my time. And people would say, yes, but this is where we get our information from you. You keep putting all these things on there. Well, if I didn't have a job, maybe I could still do it if they didn't ban me. But every once in a while, they tell me I could get back on, and I get back on for about 3 minutes, and then they ban me again. And people contact me through email and say, why did you go off Facebook so fast?
Right.
That's why. But
so
yeah.
When I did my podcast now, which I should have focused on 2 years before I got canceled, but when I started my podcast, I was worried about YouTube, because YouTube is one of the places that a lot of people have been canceled. So I made sure, and I'm on Rumble, I am on Facebook, and I am on Twitter, and Twitter's been much better now that Elon's there. In fact, it's funny, for I don't know how many years since 2020, it was like my account just stayed stagnant. There was nobody joining or reading everything was just, and come to find out, they were able to throttle it through their algorithm programs. And so nobody was seeing my stuff. All of a sudden, Elon takes over. I've more than doubled the amount of people who are, followers, and the stories that I'm putting out are getting more than double than what I was getting before. Facebook has lightened up a little bit. I think when Zuckerberg had to talk to Trump, things kind of shifted. He sold Meta, and it's a little bit better, but you still have to be careful. You feel censored. But Rumble is nice because I can go on Rumble and say whatever I want. They don't care. And there are other groups out there, or platforms that you can get on that you're not going to get kicked off of. So we're building what we call the alternative economy. That was something we've been focusing on as well, so that they can't cancel us. That's horrible that you. I have argued in politics vehemently against a lot of people, and not once did I ever think I'm going to go after that guy's business. I'm going to make sure he can't be heard on social media. You know what I mean? I've never would take that tactic, but that's the tactic of a leftist Marxist. That's what they do. If they can't attack the message or your ideas with equal messaging and equal ideas, then they have to disparage the person who's espousing those ideas.
Yep. Hey, whatever it takes.
Whatever
Shoot him in the back.
Which, gosh, I mean, in 2020, I thought we were going there. I really did. And if you lived, I was literally in the streets of Portland battling with Antifa. Fist fights, mace, and I mean, I'm in my 50s. You know what I mean? It's like I'm out there battling with these teenagers and 20-year-olds, and it's like they're out there screaming. One was screaming he was an anarchist, and yet he was for single payer insurance by the government. And you're like, you are so confused. We're never going to win this.
I love their ignorance, though.
I know.
Come on.
So what's your next great battles? What do you think you're going to be focusing on in the future?
The problem is I'm all over the board. I'm working on the dam issue. I'm going to keep working on, and like I say, I'm really trying to get to move back to Montana, and the Columbia River Basin issue is big there. But I mean, Tom calls me up and he says, hey, can you do something on the carbon capture pipeline? So, I'm everywhere, but I like it because I want to know everything that's going on. I want to be educated on these issues. And I think that that's how my mind is more. I'm not the kind of person that is focused just on one thing or two things. And I'm going back on the animal rights thing because those people are getting really bad now. So,
yeah, that's the other thing. We've got an initiative. We had an initiative a couple of years ago that would pretty much have ended being a farmer or going hunting. It literally would have ended it for us. And luckily, a lot of Democrats hunt and fish and own farms. But that initiative, I believe, is coming back. And at a certain time, who knows when these crazy Oregonians, because we're outnumbered by the Portlandiers, who knows when they're going to pass something like that. And it's going to be like, we're going to starve. We're actually not even going to follow the law. Here in certain counties, we've decided if that's going to be the law, then we're not going to follow something that's unconstitutional and just doesn't protect our rights. We just can't allow them to do that. And I think you're going to see if states start pushing things like this, you're going to see open revolts. You're going to see where people are going to say no more.
Well, and they're looking for it. But what they don't understand is that it's us, the farmers and ranchers and loggers, that know how to use guns.
That's very true.
Sorry, I had to say that. But these people are such wimps, They're guns. Hey, come on. They'll throw firecrackers and dynamite and whatever. But not that I want it to. I don't want the shooting to start. I truly don't. But I want people to wake up before it's way too late.
That's funny that you say that because that's what I get accused of often. Oh, Rob, you just want to be a tyrant and tell everyone what to do, which is to me the exact opposite. I'm trying to stop people from violating our rights, but they think that that's what we want. We want to go into this civil war scenario. And what they don't understand is we've got a process. I'm acting within the process, and I'm going to be a little aggressive about it sometimes. I'm not going to be polite about it sometimes, but no, I'm not saying that we should have open revolt. I'm just recognizing it could go there, and that's what we are trying to prevent.
But that's what they're trying to start.
That's right.
They want that. They want that so they can bring in the army, so that they can bring in the police to shut us down and shoot a bunch of us. Remember, it's reduce the human population. We got to keep that in mind. And they're just all cannon fodder because they're stupid. I mean, how can you say you're intelligent if you want to take down, pull down statues of people that built our country? How can you do that if you want to use solar and wind power that can't produce anything? It can just be saved and used,
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
It's just, there's no logic to it.
And well, that's what happens when mob rules, but that's what they want. They want the mob rule until they can bring in their order. And the thing about the statues, that was so heartbreaking. If people, some of those statues I've read about in books, I've seen them on pictures, and I always wanted to go see them. And now I won't be able to ever do that now. And they've destroyed my history. This is my history. This is my country, as in I don't own it, but it's like my friends. I don't own them either, but they are affiliated with me, and this is my country. And now I've had part of my history destroyed that I will not be able to take my children and grandchildren to go see. And it just infuriates me. And I don't care who the statue is of. There was a reason they erected it. And I think we should learn that history, because what they're telling us is usually a bunch of BS. And, it's sad. I mean, the statues of Jefferson, the statue of Abe Lincoln, they even pulled down a statue of Abe Lincoln. I mean, my gosh.
But that's it, because if you can show a physical thing, if they wanted to, you say, but he isn't important. He isn't in our school books. He isn't, and you can't take me to see him because he isn't there. The statue isn't there anymore. So basically erasing our history.
Yeah, totally. It's sad. Well, I hear your puppy's going to want to get inside here real soon.
Yes.
You've been on a while, and it's been a couple of hours, and Kathleen, I love this conversation. Before you get out of here, I want to add this to the stage because I want to promote your website, because I think it's absolutely incredible. American Policy Center, and you can find it at americanpolicy.org. And if you just go through here, just the first article, the social justice destruction of property rights and government tyranny. That's part one. I suggest you folks read it. I mean, this is really good stuff. The education or brainwashing, your choice. I love that article. I love when you sent that out. And I enjoy getting this stuff. And I highly recommend that anyone who's out there watching, check out the American Policy Center, because they go back, gosh, how long has the American Policy Center been around? I put it in there. I can't remember the date.
40 years, probably.
Oh, wow. I feel old.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, Tom started before I met him. I met him in 92 or 93 when I started fighting animal rights. Yeah.
Gosh, it's been a long time. It's been like I said, I remember you being on the Geraldo show. That's how far back. So I'm going to dig that up. I am going to find that.
Please. I'd love to. Thank you for having me on. I really enjoyed this. I like that we've been all over the map.
Me too.
Because it shows that we didn't cover very many of the subjects, but we covered enough of them that people can see that this is happening in every aspect of our lives.
Right. And I have done shows where, with Lieutenant Robert Powell, where we talked about that one show we did. It was all on one issue with lots of documents and stuff. And it was a 3-hour show, but who's going to sit there and watch a 3-hour show and listen on one side? It's really hard. I mean, unless you're really interested in it. So that's why I like doing stuff like this and having it on and kind of having a freehand conversation where it ends and begins naturally. to its own conclusions. And I really enjoyed this, Catherine. We got to have you back on sometime again.
I'm available. He's a good guy. He's a great researcher, and he has tons of information. No, I like going around. I literally like doing this. Thank you. Thank you for having me on.
You're very welcome, and thank you, and keep doing what you're doing. When you get to Montana, let me know, and maybe we can work somehow together, because that whole dam thing is intersectional with Oregon and all the rest of the states surrounding.
Yep.
So it's going to be very important stuff. Yeah.
Okay. Thank you. We'll get together. Thank you, Rob.
All right. Well, thank you, and you have a wonderful day, okay?
You too.
All right. Bye-bye, Kathleen.
Bye.
And that was Kathleen Marquardt. And like I said, this woman has been engaged with this action for a long time. Agenda 21, and Agenda 21 covers everything she talks about: the growing element of animal rights, putting animals above humans, the gay agenda, the trans agenda, the transhumanism agenda. All of that relates to Agenda 21 and Agenda 2030. And it's not something that's, people, you can call it a conspiracy theory or whatever, but it's not. It's real. And we got the documents to prove it. Let's see. I want to get to a couple comments here before I get out of here. And one of them, James, let's see. James said about the dams, it takes 2 decades for the river to recover from the building of a dam. It takes 2 decades to recover the removal of a dam. We now have sisters, I believe they called him fish tubes, that shoot the salmon up and over the dams. They also separate the invasive species in the process. They were working successfully after many decades of recovery. So that's interesting that you have that knowledge there, James. 2 years after a dam is removed. So we'll keep track of that. That's very interesting. Samantha then says, there's a law against trading with the enemy too. According to the Constitution, the states are not supposed to form trade agreements to other countries. Our state has too many tyrants. And she's talking about the Oregon-China Council and the relationship between the Oregon-China Council, our government, and China, and some of the different aspects of that. Oregon Outlaw, he says, come on, election integrity. I know you want to talk about that election integrity, and we will. I'm going to get to that in a minute. It's very important. And believe me, we got to get out and get some signatures. So we're going to be out this week, Tom. I promise you. I'll let you and Nancy know where we're going to be out, and hopefully we'll get this all together. I'll be talking about that here in a minute, because there's some things that have developed that I want to talk about. Samantha Frost says, did Court Boyce sign the NVBM petition in your county? He didn't sign it in ours because he claimed to sign it in yours. Well, after I told Court Boyce to take a hike, and that was probably the polite way to put it, because of my problems with Court Boyce. I don't think he signed the petition, or at least not ours. Maybe he did at the meeting that we had afterwards. So I don't know if Court Boyce signed it. So if we find out, I'll let you know. But I don't think it really matters. We'll find out where his allegiance really lies. Doug Farrell. Hey, Doug, it's good to see you. You and Gail, very good people out there. And he says, I agree about the younger adults at the fair. I was pleasantly surprised, what both Gail and I were working at. Yes, and you were working at the Christian booth for your church, if I remember that correctly. I'm not sure. Were you guys handing out the Bibles? I know I saw a lot of kids taking the Bibles. That was really good. I'm glad you guys are still out there. It's nice that at the fair, you can get a free Bible and you can get a free Constitution at the fair. I love the fair. That's our place. And you're right. I was so pleasantly surprised. I mean, all of those young people walking around with Donald Trump flags flying off their back like it was a cape. I mean, I voted for Reagan the first time I voted, and I don't remember wearing Ronald Reagan flags. So it was really cool to be at the fair to see all those kids wearing Trump's flag. That gives me hope. Oregon Outlaw, Tom, yes, he says Ben Edel will be on the Rick Dancer podcast this week to talk about redistricting. Rick thinks we should end worrying about election integrity and focus on redistricting. And he's half right. We should focus on redistricting, but we definitely have to focus on election integrity. I've known Rick a long time. He's a really good guy. It's funny. We had him out here when he was running for Secretary of State. I believe it was Secretary of State. And he was a good guy. I got to get him on the show again. I haven't seen him in a while. But him and his wife are great people. But yeah, Rick kind of goes his own direction. That's cool. To each his own. Then he makes another comment. He says, LOL, not that I'm aware of, Samantha. I think Rob was talking with him at the last Republican meeting. He might know. No, I don't think you could call that talking. I think I was yelling. It wasn't good. Doug Farrell says, great guest. Doug, I agree with you wholeheartedly. Kathleen is a great guest, and we were so fortunate to have her on here because she is, like I said, you got to go back and look at her library of work. If you can go back and look at that volume of information and not realize we're going the wrong direction, then, I don't know what to tell you. And of course, Oregon Outlaw agrees with Doug and says, awesome guest. Yes, I agree. Alex Bowser says, good show, Rob. We lost the schools long ago. Getting them back will be hard. Damn, Alex, I know. It's going to be an uphill fight. We need to get the party here in Coos County back in line. As you know, we had some really bad people, two bad people take over the party locally, and their car's been disorganized. I've been canceled off the radio, so we don't have me promoting our candidates. So we've lost a lot of tools here in this county. And so we need to build up our party, and then we need to start finding candidates. We need to vet these candidates to make sure they're on the same level as we are. They believe in the same things we believe in. We've got to vet them and ask them very poignant questions on principles that we all agree on. And we need to move forward with that. And we need to start looking at, like I said, from the dog catcher all the way up to the county commissioner. All of those positions, most of them, we need to take those positions back. And what do we have coming up in September? September 11th. This September is the beginning of the next campaign season. That's when you can register as a candidate. We need to find candidates. Very important that we find candidates, 2 commissioner candidates. It's a 3-man board. So whoever those 2 commissioners are, if we get 2 good candidates, we can make sure that our people are on that board. It's only 3 people. We just need to elect 2 good ones. We've got one really good one. We got one mediocre one, and we got one who's 84 and needs to retire. Not that he's 84. He just needs to retire. But yeah, and I'm talking about John Sweet, which I've heard the rumor that John Sweet is running again. I think he's been a commissioner for 14 years. Look at the condition of the county and ask yourself, do we want to continue under John Sweet's leadership? I know I don't. And he claims to be a Republican. And I'm friends with John. I've been friends with John a long time. I just wouldn't vote for him again. And he knows this. He knows how I feel. I voted for him when he ran at the very beginning. I will never vote for him again. I've seen what he votes for in his policies. We need to get rid of John Sweet. The problem is that we got Rod Taylor, not to be confused with me, Rob Taylor, and no, we're not related, but Rod Taylor is probably going to be running for office. I didn't ask him at the fair. I probably should have. I don't know if he's going to be even rerunning again, but we got to be prepared for that. So we're going to be looking for 2 candidates for the commissioner seats coming up starting in September. And then we got a sheriff who's up for re-election. And the most important part is a county clerk. We need an exemplary candidate for county clerk because the person that we have in there right now cannot be trusted. I don't know how a Democrat, a left-leaning Democrat, wins county clerk in a Republican county. That's just weird. We vote 60% for Donald Trump, but yet we voted in a liberal Democrat for county clerk, the lady who counts the votes. Or maybe she doesn't count the votes. I don't know, but that's why we need to get her changed out. Let's see. P.S. You look younger in person. LOL. Yeah. That's funny. Yeah. As people used to say, You look a lot bigger than you sound on the radio. Oh, really? Okay. I'm not sure if that's a compliment or not. And Oregon Outlaw, he's laughing out loud. Yeah, good stuff, guys. I appreciate you all tuning in. And let's go to the election integrity issue. Let's see if I have let me get the website up here. End vote by mail, and VBM. And let's share that sucker. And of course, bring it on to stage. There we go. If you're still interested in helping us out in ending vote by mail started here in Oregon. I think they started practicing it in certain areas and certain districts going back to the mid to late 80s. But it really didn't become law in this state until I think it was in the, I think it was 98. And the person who was responsible for that was Bill Bradbury. You all know who Bill Bradbury is. He is Saint Bill Bradbury here in Bandon, Oregon. He's from our little town here in Bandon. And it was really cool because his wife is still here and Bill has passed away. And even though Bill and I were completely the opposites of the political spectrum, I respected the man, didn't agree with him. And the whole thing about end vote by mail is he started that as a way to eliminate the Republicans holding office here in Oregon. And he's been successful ever since vote by mail has gone into practice. We haven't had a Republican governor. And if you go back in history before 2000, we had Republican governors on a regular basis. Well, that's all changed. And we believe part of it is end vote by mail. And this is why this is very important that we need help. We're going to be out gathering signatures. I think we're going to be at the farmers market on Wednesday. I'm going to try to put out a schedule where people can find out where we're at. If you want to sign this, you can go to Tower Ford and you can sign it over there at Tower Ford. And they can, it's Ken Ware Ford. That's it. Not Tower Ford. Ken Ware Ford. And he can, at the Ken Ware Ford dealership at, gosh, I forget the name of the street that's on. And so you can go to Ken Ware dealership and you can sign the end vote by mail petition. And if you don't want to go out anywhere, you can go to this website at EndVBM and download a single signature petition sheet, sign it and send it in. And we'll use that instead of signing a regular petition sheet. It works just the same way. And we recommend that if you guys can do that and you can't get out and to sign the signatures, go to End Vote by Mail, and that will take care of any problems that you're having. And this is very important because I talked to a young man. I don't have the video. I wish I would have had the video. I talked to a young man who was at the fair. It was the first time he had voted. And he was voting for Donald Trump. He was a big supporter of Donald Trump. This is an 18-year-old kid. First time he voted. First time I voted, I voted for Ronald Reagan, and it was in 1984. I was 18 at the time, and we had to go out to a polling place where we went into a booth. We pulled a lever after picking our candidates, and that's how we voted. And I had to show ID to get to be able to vote. Showed ID, one day in-person voting. It worked. It was successful. Now, of course, we have vote by mail. So election day has turned into election week, election month. It goes on forever. They'll accept ballots 7 days after the election with or without a date stamp on it. So I just question the validity of vote by mail. And I believe that we need to end it. And just the fact that the statistics show that we're not getting a well-rounded government, we're only getting a one-party rule, I think should show that end vote by mail is very important. Now, there are two other things that we have to do besides end vote by mail, and Judicial Watch is doing one of those, and that's we have to clean the voter rolls. See, if you have dirty voter rolls and those people are voting and you don't know if they're good voters or bad voters, then it doesn't matter how many times you count the ballot returns, because it's always going to be the same. The audit is always going to come out 100% correct. But the problem is it's like counting counterfeit money in a cash register. If you count the money, sure, you can get a total, you can get a balanced cash register, but how many of those bills are actual real bills if you know there's counterfeit in there. So that's what I think is happening with the election. And we know this is happening. Dr. Frank has people out there on the streets knocking on doors of phantom voters. We're finding out there's a lot of things that are just not right with our voter rolls. And even at the fair, I don't know how many times, and this happened to me at this last fair, in 2020, this happened several times. People were coming up to me telling me stories about their dead relatives voting in the election. And it was just strange. But the young man who was talking to me, he wanted to vote by mail because he was going off to college and he thought it was safe and he thought it was secure. He filled out his ballot, voted for President Trump, put it in the mail, and he went off to college. And he came back a couple of weeks later or a month later, and he was checking his voter situation to see if his ballot was received. And guess what? They didn't receive his ballot. And it was after the election. There was nothing he could do about it. He thought that voting by mail was a safe, secure way to vote. Well, guess what? In January, he got his ballot back, and on the ballot it said return to sender. In January. This is after the November election. So people who think vote by mail is safe and secure, that was on Wednesday morning, that was the second day of the fair, that was the first kid who came up to the booth who told me that story. And this is how it relates to Bill Bradbury. His wife, Katie Iman, came up to the booth, and I go, Katie, did you hear? We're going to try to get rid of your husband's law because it's a failure. She goes, no, it's not a failure. Vote by mail has been a success. It's been a wonderful success and people just love it. And I go, well, that's because people don't realize how bad it is. It's not a success. And I gotta disagree with you, Katie. And then I told her the story about the young man, and boy, the look on her face was like, wow, okay, all right, I get it. And I said, this young man, he was so enthused about being able to vote for the president. And because your husband create this law, telling people that it was safe to vote by mail, this young man trusted you. Well, I want to thank you because your system proved me right, showed him that it was a failure. And now he signed our petition and he wants to end vote by mail. And he wants to go vote the same way I did when I was 18. And you can't do that now. If you go to the county clerk's office, and you fill out your ballot, they'll tell you to fill out the ballot that they send you. So you're literally filling out the ballot that they mailed you. And the county clerk, half the time they'll tell you, oh, we don't accept it here in the office. Just go put it in the box. So you still have to put it in the box. There is no in-person voting in Oregon. We want to change that. And that's what end vote by mail will do. And that's one of two things. So we got to clean the voter rolls. We got to end vote by mail. Oh gosh, and what was the third thing? 1 day in-person voting, show ID, which is part of voter vote by mail. So that is part of the initiative. So all three things, ending the vote by mail, 1 day in person, check your ID at the polling place, and clean voter rolls. All of those things have to be done for us to have a good, clean election. And if we don't, then we're going to have the same lousy representatives that we have now. Let's see. The other petition that we are doing is vote before tolls. And that's vote before tolls, not trolls. Yeah, we don't want the trolls either, but the tolls are even worse because they cost us money. So those highways you drive on? Well, let me show you this screen. This right here is the website for vote before tolls. And you can also get a single sheet petition off this website for this petition. You can fill it out, download it, fill it out, and send it in to the chief petitioner. They give you an address on there to do all of that. And you can get it right here on this website. And once again, it's got a lot of information on here of what they're trying to do. And this is what kills me. In Texas, they did this, but in Texas, they built new highways. They built new lanes, and then they tolled those lanes. So you can choose between the lanes you've already paid for, or you can choose between the less crowded toll lanes. But that's not what's happening here in Oregon. They want to toll our roads that we've already paid for. I-5, 205, even Highway 101. Yeah, they were talking about Highway 101, not tolling us just at one place, but several places up and down the Oregon coast. Now, I don't know. I think we should be tolling Washington people and California people who come here to Oregon. Put a big toll up at the border and tell them, you want to come to Oregon, you're going to have to pay to play. That's just my theory on this. We shouldn't be tolling our own citizens. But if you want to stop this, once again, you need to go to this website, download a petition sheet, and let's get rid of this nonsense. I've got a video of the election integrity meeting that we just had recently, but I don't have it edited yet, and we're going to get that up very soon. But these are the two petitions that we're working on: the end vote by mail and the vote before the tolls. And of course, we do have the recall petition. I should have that out at any of the places that you find us petitioning at. And we'll make sure that you're able to sign all three petitions. I was listening to the lady here who's the county coordinator for the recall of Tina Kotek, which, boy, I'd love to see her recalled. Will it happen? I don't know, but I'd love to see it happen. And boy, I'll tell you what, it's Brandy Martindale. She is kicking ass out there. She is really kicking ass. Let me go to a couple of more comments. Doug Farrell says, everything Kathleen M. said goes along with the Hickson books we read. Very interesting topic. Gail speaking. Thank you, Gail. I thought it was an interesting topic as well. Oregon Outlaw says, heck no, we do not want sweet. No, sweet is not sweet at all. Yeah, Sweets can be bad for you. They can lead to diabetes. It can be really, really bad. No, we don't want that. And of course, Alec Bowser says cheat by mail. Yeah, vote by mail, cheat by mail. That's exactly it. You got it, Alex. That's what's going on here. Before I get out of here, let me see if I want to do these stories real quick. There were a couple of stories that came up that I thought was, well, it relates to us here in Oregon, here in Coos County, as a matter of fact. Let me throw this up here. And there you go. That's not what I wanted. What is that? That's not what I wanted. There we go. Boy, I'll tell you what, this is the website for the New York Post, and I can hardly get to the article because there's so much garbage on here. But it said, cop ignored dying man in back of hot police car. Watch TikToks and sent intimate text instead. This happened here in Coos County. And in fact, let me read this here. An Oregon cop allegedly left a mentally ill man to die in the back of his hot police car while the officer watched TikToks and texted about snuggles, according to a lawsuit. Nathan Bradford Smith, 33, died of a heat stroke aggravated by meth use during a July 2024 arrest when Coos Bay police officers allegedly left him in a parked patrol car to watch TikToks and send intimate texts instead of getting him medical help, according to a lawsuit filed by Smith's family on Wednesday. The lawsuit blasts the city of Coos Bay and officers Benjamin Martin, Tristan Smith, and Wesley O'Connor for ignoring signs of obvious medical distress in Smith, accusing them of negligence and deliberate interference. Now, I wasn't there. I don't know what happened, and I believe everyone is innocent until proven guilty, including law enforcement officers. Look at what happened to that whole George Floyd thing. You know, they accused the officer of killing that man, and that didn't happen. He died of a drug overdose. He was going to die anyway. And so I have to ask the question, what responsibility does this young man who died in this cop's car, what responsibility does he have for ingesting all these dangerous drugs? And then I got to ask the question, how hot can it really be in Oregon? You know what I mean? As a kid, we used to sit in hot cars all the time when mom went shopping at the store and stuff. Yeah. And it's a lot hotter in West Texas and in New Mexico than it is here. So I don't know how anyone here could even accuse the cops of neglecting them when I don't think there's any way you can die of heat exhaustion in the coast of Oregon. It's just too cool here. In fact, Ivan Hawker, hi Ivan, good to see you. That case should be thrown out. He got called in 3 times for smoking meth in public. And that's exactly it. What responsibility does this guy have for smoking meth? Guess what? If you smoke meth, you might die. That's very true. And meth isn't what meth used to be. They have really screwed up meth, and they put all that fentanyl crap in it and all kinds of other caustic materials, and you're smoking that crap, and you're going to blame the cops because you die in the back of the patrol car? Yeah, I'm calling bullshit on that. So the problem is that they will settle this case out of court. More than likely, he'll probably get a large insurance money. The officers will probably be fired and or reprimanded or transferred. But I don't know if that should be what happens. Now, there is the accusation that they were doing other things than their job when they were holding this gentleman in the car. And if that's true, there should be some disciplinary action for them being on TikTok and sending messages while on duty. And here's why. I don't know how many times I hear people in Coos Bay or North Bend say they've called the cops because there was crimes being committed and nobody shows up to respond. It makes you wonder, are those cops out somewhere doing their TikTok, sending out their snuggles invitation to their girlfriends? I don't know. But it does bring up a legitimate question. Are they doing their job? Now, I honestly, once again, this will all come out in trial if it goes to trial. I really don't think these officers are guilty of killing this young man or letting this young man harm himself. That was just, that was his own fault for ingesting drugs. But when you find out the cop was doing something other than cop work, I have a little bit of a problem with that. But like I said, everyone's innocent until proven guilty, especially the cops. Ivan Hawker says the responsibility should be placed on the user, not law enforcement. I totally agree with that, Ivan. You shove poison into your body and you die. I don't think you can blame the cops after that point. Yeah, and that's what meth is. It's poison. It's just I can't believe people. They just shove such crap into their body, and then they want to blame others for all the negative consequences that they must suffer. It's ridiculous. Now, here was another story that has to do with the Coos County Sheriff's Department. And that one here, let me get this all straightened out. This one is from the Lincoln Chronicle. And I don't know why this was in the Lincoln Chronicle, but it says Oregon judge gives first certificate of innocence for wrongful conviction in Coos County death. Now, I'm going to have to do a little investigation because I don't know what a certificate of innocence is. And it wasn't that clear in the story, but let me read some part of the story here because this does relate to a case that happened here in Coos County. It says, for the first time in state history, an Oregon judge has granted a certificate of innocence to a man who was falsely imprisoned. Nicholas McGuffin was convicted in 2011 for the manslaughter of 15-year-old Leah Freeman, a decision that was overturned years later as new information about the case came to light. McGuffin spent nearly a decade behind bars. In a judgment issued Friday, Marion County Circuit Judge Sean Armstrong granted McGuffin the certificate of innocence, stating that he is innocent of all crimes for which he was wrongly convicted. In a separate order, the judge also sealed McGuffin's arrest and conviction records from the case, which that's strange in itself. I don't know why we would seal the arrest and the conviction records. That seems like that's detrimental to public interest. But what can I say? I think the whole situation is a little strange. The court's ruling today marks the end of Nick's 25-year-long fight to prove his innocence, said Janice Pericol, an attorney for the Forensic Justice Project who represented McGuffin in court. Most people don't realize the stigma that follows someone around after they've been accused, even if they were exonerated. We are thrilled for Nick and his family. And once again, that's just the court system. If he's innocent, he's innocent. I really don't know. I don't know who murdered Leah Freeman. I hope we find the murderer, because if McGuffin didn't do it, then who did do it? And are they still wandering around Coos County absolutely free? Yeah, that should kind of scare some people. Yeah, I don't know. I'm a little conflicted on that. I don't know. I think this judge may have overstepped his bounds on this, but what can I say? The other story that I thought was interesting that also affects us here, U.S. offshore wind prospects looking even shakier with Ørsted surprise this morning. And this is another one of those articles about the wind energy company. Let me see here. I'm on, by the way, this is hotair.com website. This is a story that they put out. All I can say is let her blow. The Trumpian cyclone is hitting the green grifting scams hard, and this morning's kind of shock announcement from major offshore developer and one of my favorite villains, Danish firm Ørsted, has knees quaking. And what has happened is that Ørsted plunges 27% as it plans $9.4 billion rights issue after adverse turn in U.S. markets. Why? Because wind energy sucks. Key points: shares of Ørsted, the world's largest offshore wind developer, plummeted on Monday morning after a surprise rights issue. The company said the move was being made after its, let's see if I can, darn it, I didn't want to do that. What? Oh, it keeps taking me somewhere else. Oh, here we go. This is on Twitter. It says Ørsted plunges 26 key points is shares of Ørsted, the world's largest offshore wind developer. Let me make sure I'm sharing that. Yeah. Okay. So the world's largest offshore wind developer plummeted on Monday morning after a surprise rights issue. The company said the move was being made after its board of directors decided to end the partial divestment of a project off the coast of New York, which is a good thing. Ørsted cited a material adverse development in the U.S. market as driving the decision. In other words, the fact that Donald Trump is no longer buying into the grift of wind energy because it blows. Wind energy blows. Maybe it sucks. It does a little sucking. It does a little blowing. Who knows? But that's a good thing. Let me say right here, what's happened is that the environment for wind developers in the United States particularly is now so unfavorable thanks to the outright hostility of the Trump administration and the incoming restrictions passed in the big, beautiful bill that they are having to do some emergency financial rejiggering. And who cares? Good. I hope they go out of business. I don't give a damn about this company. They tried to destroy our fishing industry here in Oregon. They didn't give a damn. And by the way, Jerry Lehman from the New England Fishermen's Association is going to be on the show either next Monday or the following Monday. We've got an interview with him coming up, and this guy is very informative, and he's still having to deal with the wind turbines off the coast of New York. So we will, we'll keep an eye on that because, well, it just shouldn't be happening. And let's see, I did have one other story this is going to be controversial. But you know me, I'm not afraid of a little bit of controversy. It caused a little bit of controversy on Facebook when I posted it. And that is Trump considers reclassifying marijuana as less dangerous drug. And that's a report that was released on Fox News. Let's see here. President Donald Trump is weighing whether to reclassify marijuana as a less dangerous drug. According to a report, Trump told attendees at a $1 million a plate fundraiser at his New Jersey golf club earlier this month, he was interested in making a change to the plant's classification, the Wall Street Journal reported, citing sources familiar with the matter. This comes after cannabis companies have committed millions of dollars to the president's political groups, according to the report. And you know why that is? You know why you have a lot of marijuana distributors giving to the president? Because just like the marijuana distributor who sponsors this show, the owners are conservatives. That's right. The owners of these marijuana shops are very conservative. They're very intense business people. And just like a lot of people, I think that marijuana is much less dangerous than alcohol. And I don't think it should be illegal. I certainly don't think you should be sending people to prison. I mean, just think about that. I know friends of mine who were sent to jail because they were caught with pot. And what happened to them in prison was much worse than anything they ever did with a plant. Let me tell you, getting sodomized in prison is much worse than smoking pot. I don't know. I've never been to prison, but I have friends who have been, and they were put there because they were caught with illegal weed. And I hear Republicans all the time say, nobody went to jail because of pot. Bullshit. That's a bullshit lie. And I hate to be repugnant and use bad words, but there were a lot of my friends who went to jail for long periods of time for marijuana. They had the 2 for 10 law in Texas. 2 joints, 10 years. 2 joints, 10 years. You do the math. A lot of young men, a lot of young people spent a lot of time in jail for smoking something that many of the past presidents that we've had in office, Obama, Clinton, admitted to smoking as well. And in fact, I would argue this country has to owe much of its history due to the production of the marijuana plant or the hemp plant. Do you know who the biggest hemp producer was in this country before it was a country? You know who the biggest whiskey distiller was in this country before we were a country? One of my favorite American heroes, George Washington, the most badass dude who ever lived on the planet, George Washington. He grew hemp, he made lots of whiskey, and he made lots of money off of it, and no apologies whatsoever for it. And there's reason to believe that they actually smoked sweet hemp. There's a statement from Abraham Lincoln talking about smoking sweet hemp on the back porch of the White House. And I forget where that's documented, but there are people going back in history. Egypt, they found in Egyptian tombs, they have found the cannabis plant. So this is a plant that's been around for a long time that people have been using for medicine. And this is what got me involved with politics. I'm a marijuana smoker. I make no apologies for it. I am not going to tell anyone to do it themselves. I don't promote it. I don't think people should be out there, promoting it to young people. Even though I do advertise it on this show, it's for adults, for all consenting adults. So it's no difference than alcohol. And like I said, alcohol is way worse than whatever a plant can do. So what Trump is doing here, he is going to ingratiate himself. If he actually goes through and he lowers the scheduling of marijuana to the lowest rank, he is doing something to ingratiate himself to a group of people as pot smokers who have been marginalized and then criminalized for smoking a plant. And this is where we stop. This is where we stop at a Republican president who may bring this whole war on marijuana to an end. And that would be great. And I really hope this man will do it, because we know President Trump, he doesn't do drugs. He doesn't drink alcohol. He's the perfect person to lower this scheduling of marijuana. And as someone who, the reason I'm involved with politics is because I got tired of watching a huge portion of my generation suffer the consequences of this crazy war on weed. The war on drugs was never really about drugs. It was about people and controlling people, manipulating people, and forcing them into situations that they didn't want to be a part of. And the lawlessness that you see on the streets today here in Empire neighborhood and all over Oregon, especially in Portland and the other major cities, it's not about drugs. It's not about homelessness. It's about lawlessness. See, you can't allow people to ingest these type of drugs and then just willy-nilly let them do whatever they want. You still have to enforce laws and protect people's rights. And people have a right to live safe in their communities without having some druggie who's drugged out, drug-addled mind going around stealing from people, vandalizing people, acting crazy. None of that was ever supposed to happen. But don't blame the drugs. Blame the policy. I just had a lady on here talking about the American Policy Center. Well, that's the problem, is the policy concerning the drugs. I think you could legalize drugs, but you cannot legalize the lawlessness. You got to make sure that people are doing the right thing. And I don't care what they are influenced by, whether it be religion, drugs, alcohol, mental illness. No, nothing. Nobody has a right or an excuse to violate the rights of others. And that's what we're losing in this country. And of course, they're going to blame, the left is going to blame the guns. Got to get rid of the guns. And then you got the extremists on the right. No, we got to get rid of the drugs. And there's those of us in the middle that says, no, we just got to enforce laws that protect our rights. That's what we need to get back to, a common sense law policies that truly protect our rights. We don't have that today. So that's just, my 2 cents worth. And Donald Trump, somehow you're listening. If you're listening to this podcast up in the White House, I doubt you are. But if, maybe Ivana might see it. I don't know. But please do what you're considering and reschedule marijuana to the lowest level of scheduling. And let's not decriminalize it. Let's legalize it. Decriminalizing it is a halfway ass way of doing it. We need to legalize it and re-legalize it because it used to be legal in this country. When they went into prohibition, a whole bunch of pot shops shot up in major cities all over this country. This was back in the 1920s. So it's not like something that just showed up yesterday. It's been here a while, folks, and we need to learn to deal with the situation without criminalizing a whole group of people. And that's one way of doing it. And if you're a gun owner and you're against the legalization of drugs or the legalization of marijuana, well, you take out your gun arguments for your rights to own gun. You take that argument and you take out the word gun and you put in marijuana. It's the same damn argument. Every individual has a right to choose for themselves what to do with their body and to protect themselves. Every individual. It's a natural right. You were born with it. Don't give it up, because once you give it up, they're never going to let you have those rights back again. You're going to continue to violate them. So that was my show today. Join me. I apologize. I had some technical difficulty on this past Friday. I was planning on streaming live the Friday night rant from the Douglas County Fair. I just had some really bad technical difficulties and I just couldn't get done. I've got to find a way to get my mics to work on the phone properly. I'm really having a hard time with this. Technical difficulties. My lack of understanding technical situations. That's really the technical difficulty that I'm having. But we'll be back this Friday. It should be a good time. We'll get some people on here to talk about the different subjects. And next Monday, I'm not sure who I'm either going to have Jerry Lehman on here, or let's see, who else were we considering getting on here that's that we were going to talk to. I can't remember offhand, but that's all right. We've got a couple of good guests coming on. I hope you all tune in for the show. Tuning in now, and you know what I always say? Coos County. Until next time, carry on, Coos County. Carry on.